Greetings, my fellow Americans. This is your President Samuel Ronan speaking, and today is Recap Thursday. I'm here before Anna, apolitical. You need to shame her. You need to shame her for being late to her own production here, because I'm just the beautiful face, right? I'm just, I'm the reason why people come to this thing. She's the reason why it comes together. All right. Welcome. Like I said, today is Recap Thursday. We have the Trump administration. I don't believe we really covered as much about the recent executive orders, or there have been more since then. Of course, we definitely want to talk more about the Luigi copycat, and we did not get to cover the Berlin protests and how international protests are being met the same way, no matter where they're at. Cops, no matter what country of origin, brutally assault civilians who protest their governments. And this is getting out of hand in every single country. And it's especially poignant when it's happening in places like Germany or Italy, when those countries used to be fascist countries. When you start seeing the aggression come out of the state directed against the citizenry, it's very deeply concerning. So we do have quite a bit to cover today. Unfortunately, I would love to go back to, playing video games for funsies and, doing conspiracies and whatever else, but it just, we can't get away from it, unfortunately. Also, apparently, I had a bit of a rough hair day today, so one of these days I'll probably get back to, being presentable. Today is not that day. All right. Also, I'm going to try a bit of healthier snack. I have honey for the throat, and I have a nutrition drink. We'll see how that works. Today is the 31st. Okay, I thought that was on the top of the list yesterday, but yeah, let's wow, okay. Top of the world headlines, and then U.S. councilman doused in gasoline and set on fire. Let's start with this one. Let's start off with a
Watch this
bang.
before you put a new roof on your house. It could save you thousands of dollars.
Let's drop
Using
it like
this
it's
AI-powered
hot.
calculator. You can get instant accurate.
Is that too
disturbing headline from
much?
Danville, Virginia? A city councilman intentionally doused with flammable liquid and set on fire. Here's Pierre Thomas.
Tonight, a horrific crime in broad daylight. A city councilman from Danville, Virginia, doused with gasoline and set on fire.
What's up, guys? It's Lee Vogler.
Councilman Lee Vogler confronted inside the office of a local magazine where he also worked.
An individual forced his way into our office carrying a 5-gallon bucket of gasoline and poured the gasoline on Lee. Lee attempted to flee.
Question. Why? Why was Lee Vogler, of all people, doused in gasoline and set on fire? We know why the two lawmakers in Minneapolis were assassinated, because it was a Republican who had his own mercenary squad in Africa who drank the MAGA Kool-Aid and decided to be, I guess, a vigilante hero in his eyes and started assassinating Democrats. So why did they attack Lee? That's my question.
Ran to the front of the building. The individual followed him and set him on fire.
Vogler, elected in 2012, then the youngest member of the city council.
As you guys know, for 13 years, I've never missed a meeting.
Tonight, witnesses say that before the councilman was airlifted to a North Carolina hospital, he identified his attacker as 29-year-old Shotzi Buck Hayes. Police arrested Buck Hayes after he allegedly fled the scene. Authorities say the suspect's motive involves a personal matter not related to the victim's position on Danville City Council or any other political affiliation.
So, I'm going to say it. Are you telling me that this was a lover's quarrel? A slighted ex? Like, is this, like, you broke my heart and I'm going to get revenge? Because that's pretty fucking wild. Not going to lie. That is pretty fucking wild. it would have been better if it was a political motivation, because at least then we could talk about, how things continue to devolve. But we have a former football player with CTE accidentally murking the CEO of Blackstone Financing, which was in charge of real estate. And now we have this guy getting burned alive. Like, I just, very interesting. Very interesting.
Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Officials in Gaza say Israel's killed at least 111 Palestinians over the past 24 hours, including 91 people seeking food and aid. Over 800 Palestinians have been injured. In the deadliest incident on Wednesday, at least 51 were killed by Israeli forces as they headed toward aid trucks at the Zikim crossing. On Wednesday, Palestinians gathered at El Shifa Hospital to mourn the deaths of family and friends killed on Tuesday while seeking aid.
You can ask anyone. For 3 or 4 days, you couldn't find any food. People were either dying of hunger, even in intensive care units, you find them starving with nothing to eat. Or we would die in the places of death, the places of killing and destruction, where we go to get something to eat but end up bringing back our children to bury them.
On Wednesday, Canada became the latest country to...
This is, okay. There's going to be several headlines here. Yeah, and I hate making negative predictions, because that's what I was about to say. This is only getting worse. Like, we've been talking about Gaza since it happened, have we not? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm fairly certain we were... where was I on October 7th, 2023? No, I think I was streaming, actually. Or if I wasn't streaming, I was making videos. So explain to me, we've been here since the beginning, and we've said since the beginning that what Israel is doing to the Palestinians is immoral and genocide. Just not good stuff. It's just all bad, right? And while I was in New Hampshire, I know for a fact we were covering this, and it was bad then. Dozens of people dying, people getting shoved into it went from like all of Palestine to like the Gaza Strip to Rafah to one other city to wherever else, right? It just kept getting consolidated, people getting pushed and pushed and pushed. And now they're in this, effectively open air prison. And now they're being starved to death. And we have not stopped covering it. And we have said back then, we are saying it now, and we will continue to say it. Like, this is only going to get worse if we do not start intervening. The worst part, though, is now that it's politically expeditious to say that, what's happening in Palestine is happening in Palestine. Now, all of a sudden, the Democrats are making it their number one priority. Now that it's politically expeditious, now Democrats give a shit. And that, if nothing else, at least the Republicans didn't give a shit and continue to not give a shit. Here's the thing. I will say this time and time again. I can respect the Republicans for their malevolence because they are consistent with their malevolence. They have not deviated from their malevolence at all. But the Democrats pretend. They pretend. They are malevolent, but they pretend otherwise. Or they will try and gaslight you, say, we've always been on this side. And it's like, no, the fuck you haven't. So in my honest political opinion, in my professional opinion, I believe the Democratic Party should be disregarded and should be left in droves. Ignore them. Do not give them money. Do not support them. Run in their primaries by all means, but the actual party establishment, do nothing for them. Do not support them. Do not donate to them. Do not rally for them. Do not knock on doors for them. If you have to run for office, or let me rephrase. If you want to run for office and you have to run in a primary because, face it, that's the country we live in right now, and your district happens to be a blue district, then run as a Democrat. But fuck them. Do not associate with them. Do not engage with them. Get their signatures. Get your access to MPG Van. Contact me. I'll help you navigate it and move forward from there. Do not participate in the party because they are the worst kind of evil, the kind that'll lie to you and pretend to be your ally. And we are seeing that happen more and more. Those Palestinian children got here, became citizens, and went to get an American school, Suzanne would say, get to the fitness test, all while his scarf's down greasy. Right. Or they'd be getting terrorized by ICE, let's be honest. I guess I only made the videos, I wasn't streaming yet, so thank you for keeping me on the up and up there. Jabba the Hutt says, you children must pass the fitness test that I brought back after 10 years. Then wouldn't he have been also the one to get rid of it? That's weird. But yes, you're absolutely right. Apolitical. They are the most disingenuous party. Now, that isn't to say that the Libertarians or Greens are any more structurally better off than any of the Republicans or Democrats, because they're not. The Green Party doesn't even have ballots access in all 50 states. I know because I'm in Ohio. I was offered the nomination for senator and governor, and at neither point did they have the ability to actually support my candidacy or my campaign or be on the ballot as a Green Party. So I'm not telling you to fuck off the Democrats and then join the Green Party, because that is also a wasted effort. What I'm saying is we need to get past the two-party system. But while the two-party system exists, unfortunately, at the very least, do not participate in party politics, right? Fuck the party. Fuck the Democrats. Run in their primaries, make them waste their resources, and with enough of us primarying, we're bound to win elections. And that is what I am suggesting. Primary everyone. Primary Republicans, primary Democrats. Don't drink either of the red or blue Kool-Aid and win elections. That's what I'm telling you. Blue Overlord 20... Oh, Obama got rid of it. Okay. He changed it to youth fitness or whatever, encouraging exercise and being active. Well, go figure. That's why that's why he's trying to rebrand it now, Red Overlord. All right, let's go back to the headlines. I just wanted to really touch on that.
Announced plans to recognize a Palestinian state, joining recent calls by France and the UK. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney spoke in Ottawa.
Canada intends to recognize the state of Palestine at the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly in September 2025. This intention is predicated on the Palestinian Authority's commitment to much-needed reforms, including commitments by the Palestinian Authority's President Abbas to fundamentally reform its governance, to hold general elections in 2026 in which Hamas can play no part, and to demilitarize the Palestinian state.
Israel blasted Canada's move, calling it a, quote, reward for Hamas.
I mean, how many American flags do we need?
President Trump wrote on Truth Social, quote, that will make it very hard for us to make a trade deal with them, unquote. Meanwhile, Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, has arrived in Israel as ceasefire talks have stalled. In the UK, a high court has ruled the co-founder of the direct action group Palestine Action can challenge the Home Secretary's decision to ban the group as a terrorist organization. Under the ban, membership and direct support of Palestine Action is punishable by up to 14 years in prison. Since it was banned, more than 200 people have been arrested for publicly protesting in support of Palestine Action. That includes an 83-year-old priest and an 81-year-old retired magistrate judge.
That is insane to me. And we talked about that, 3 or 4 weeks ago, where the kids were arrested. Actually, it was 3 or 4 weeks ago, but it was about an event that occurred years ago, I think it was. Regardless, the UK government declared a activist organization a terrorist group because apparently supporting a country that is being genocided against is now considered terrorism, and then are actively arresting people for supporting the organization that is supporting the country that is being ethnically cleansed. Like, how is the UK ruling itself not an act of terrorism or in violation of international law? That would be like literally declaring. I mean, I'm surprised the Supreme Court hasn't in the United States declared pro-Palestinian actions as terrorist support or whatever. Like, I'm actually shocked that hasn't happened here in America. But the fact that it's happening in the UK, and amidst the shifting policies, no less, that the prime minister or whatever the fuck his name is going to go to the UN and declare Palestine a state, they're still going to treat pro-Palestinian groups as terrorists. Like, that is the most liberal Democrat bullshit I have ever heard in my life, and it's the UK. Unleavened bread. Honestly, you're very much so confusing me. Call her out. Like, we're not going to get banned for antagonizing the administration. Carolyn Levitt is a propagandist and is guilty of war crimes and crimes against humanity by parroting genocide rhetoric on behalf of this administration. Like, the Nazis, Goebbels and Himmler and all those fuckers, they got the noose. And they got the noose by name. So we don't have to mince words. We can call them by name. Now, I might have done some moderation to be cheeky with Trump, but you're confusing the shit out of me. I gotta think twice on who you're even trying to reference.
Meanwhile, the Board of Deputies of British Jews, the largest organization representing Jews in the UK, has called for a, quote, massive and sustained flow of aid into Gaza. The organization also condemned Israel's starving of the population of the besieged Strip.
Well, that's good news.
It comes as Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced the UK will recognize a Palestinian state unless Israel agrees to a ceasefire. On Capitol Hill, more than half the Democratic caucus voted Wednesday to block $675 million in U.S. arms sales to Israel. Senator Bernie Sanders had introduced the measure, which ended up being defeated in a 70-27 vote. Senator Sanders spoke from the floor before the vote.
The United States has provided more than $22 billion for Israel's military operations since this war began. $22 billion. One estimate based on...
Which is more money than was spent in every election in the last election cycle. For context, $22 billion is a lot of money. $19 billion is what everybody in America spent to run for office in 2024. That includes presidents, senators, congresspeople, and all the way down the ticket. $19 billion was spent in the last election cycle. And we spent, as a country with our tax dollars, $3 billion more than that in weapons alone to Israel to starve children to death in Palestine. So, again, billions of dollars is such a large, like, it's a hard number to contextualize. And that is also true, Anna. There's a whole picture presentation, and people just don't fucking care. I mean, look at that giant stack of papers there. I'm sure he didn't read all of it, but my point is, like, our country is complicit and continues to be complicit, and it's horrific how complicit we are.
On Brown University research calculates that the United States has paid for 70% of the Gaza war. In other words, American taxpayer dollars are being used to starve children, bomb schools, kill civilians, and support the cruelty of Netanyahu and his criminal ministers.
The U.S. has sanctioned Alexandre de Moraes, the Brazilian Supreme Court justice, in charge of the criminal case against the right-wing former President Jair Bolsonaro, accused of attempting a coup after losing the 2022
and the
elections.
worst part is the Dems are now caring on social media, but when it comes to their actual votes, they're not. And that's the point that Politico was making, that the Democrats are 100% the most disingenuous pieces of garbage on the planet. Jennings on CNN had to say, taking all the fluoride out of the water and replacing it with Ozempic in 18 months, I'll have the birth rate cry. Oh, Jesus Christ. Is it? I guess we missed that too.
The U.S. of attempting a coup after losing former...
It's Messias, but I don't know. That might be Brazilian for Messiah. Could very well be. But the point here on this particular subject is that the United States of America is sanctioning judges who are prosecuting right-wing despots because this administration wants to become a right-wing despot. And that's also not good. It's Messiah in Spanish and Portuguese. Okay, well that's really weird. We are living in probably the dumbest and most cartoonishly evil timeline in history, because our country is trying to establish fascism, failing, struggling to, and then is trying to interfere with international proceedings that are trying to hold right-wing fascists accountable. Like, it's a good thing South Korea already found their former president guilty of treason and all that other fun stuff, or else this administration would have tried interfering with that. Like, it's absolutely insane how corrupt. I mean, how many adjectives can I really use here? This administration is corrupt in ways we have never even dreamed of, that movies barely even capture. Like, this level of corruption is like Lex Luthor levels of corruption. It's insanity.
President Jair Bolsonaro, accused of attempting a coup after losing the 2022 elections. The U.S. also slapped Brazil with 50% tariffs on imports. President Trump signed an executive order announcing the tariffs, specifically citing the justice for abusing, quote, his judicial authority to target political opponents, end quote. President Trump has expressed his admiration for Bolsonaro in the past, calling his trial a witch hunt. Bolsonaro is often referred to as the Trump of the tropics. In other trade news, Trump has announced 25% tariffs on India and new penalties against India.
It isn't justified. That's the thing. He's unilaterally screwing with international trade, implementing tariffs that only hurt us, Americans, and that is somehow being used as a weapon against other countries. I don't even get it. We've had this conversation. I do not understand how tariffs make other countries capitulate to America's demands. I don't see it. Unless the fear is American companies won't do business with those countries that have the high tariffs, and that's what they're concerned of. Because in the short term, there's not enough time to move goods and services around. Maybe. But even then, I would say, well, fuck it then. We'll just do, international trade with our neighbors instead of America if they're going to try and strong arm us. Like, I don't understand. And then I also don't understand how people have yet to realize that this is just blowing up in our faces in our everyday. I don't get it. He says tariffs are to punish people for not getting his way of McCarthyism. It's even worse than that. He's using the tariffs in part because he thinks his comrade in Brazil is being mistreated. So there's no basis for it, like in terms of economics or trade or anything else. His tariff is as political as the accusation that the judge is politically attacking Bolsonaro. The hypocrisy in gaslighting is insane. I feel like I'm just always repeating the same day in horrible news. Well, welcome to politics, baby. Because yes, that's exactly what it feels like. Was happy to see the countries maybe recognized. I mean, there is that amount of improvement, I suppose. U.S. companies have a lot of influence in the global south. Yeah, I'm not saying they don't. I'm not saying that they don't. What I'm saying is I'm just surprised that they aren't shrugging it off in the light of this stupidity. Obviously, it's a personal vendetta, and Bolsonaro admitted to the coup. So again, well, basically admitted to the coup. Again, to me, this is a no-brainer. Lock that piece of shit up and execute him. It's not hard. And again, the the U.S. Marshals exist to do the same thing. We have a rogue administration, period, dot. Arrest them all, charge them accordingly, and then arrest all of the complicit congressmen and senators and Supreme Court justices. Like, this is not rocket science. We have the tools at our disposal, and they're just not being utilized. And that's the part that fucking gets me. There should have been riots a long time ago. Yeah, starting at around January 21st, I would say. How is it a witch hunt? Yeah, it's a witch hunt for going after fellow fascists, I guess. It's a witch hunt for fascists being held accountable. That's exactly what fascists say, isn't it? Whenever they're held accountable, it's, oh, it's a witch hunt. No, this is called accountability. A witch hunt is what you did to your political adversaries and people that you've othered, like, you know, Latinos. Going after Latinos, hunting them down door by door, stealing their private records and information, medical records and IRS records to compile a hit list, that's a witch hunt. That is 100% a witch hunt. It's also very fucking disturbing. There's other words to describe it. I don't remember what the Gestapo called hunting for the Jews, but whatever they called it is what's happening now, and that is a witch hunt. That is worse than a witch hunt. So, again, the left really needs to get better at just bombarding media, social media or traditional media, with call-outs and accountability and calls to action, because we are losing the information war. We are 100% losing the narrative war as well. Yeah. So, caught up on El Chato.
Russian oil.
See,
Trump also announced.
This is why I eat donuts. I'm stress eating. That's why I'm probably gaining fat in my face again, because of all the stress eating, because of how fucking stressful our world is right now.
A new trade deal with South Korea, setting the tariff rate at 15%. We'll have more on Trump's trade deals later in the broadcast. After a
kinda. If there were more ads, like if there were as many ads showing how every different congressperson, Republican or Democrat, keeps interfering with the Epstein lists being released, and those were flooding the airwaves and the radio waves, that would be different, because it's the same kind of propaganda that I can't go on any channel. I can't go a single day. Okay, let me rephrase. I don't have cable, but my parents do. And when I go over to my parents for breakfast or whatever on Sunday to visit, whatever, my parents will be watching television, the news, HGTV, what have you. And no matter what channel they're on, it is unavoidable. There will be political ads. There will be, family values ads. There will be ads that perpetrate in some way, form, or fashion right-wing values. Whether it's implicitly, specifically political, whether it's from a candidate, or whether it's implied from like this religious organization or this religious charity. So right-wing propaganda is infiltrating every facet of our society. And if left-wing propaganda could fucking get their shit together and do the same thing, it might at the very least cancel each other out. When Kamala Harris popped on my TikTok feed posing as the great savior, I was so done for the day. Yeah, but that's because Kamala isn't believable. If I popped up on your feed and said, I am the great savior, I will hold these tyrants accountable, and we the people shall be victorious, you will then Google my name, and you will see a decade's worth of content that suggests that I actually follow through on those claims. Let's see, keeping the Satan and ORED Overlord drawings in safe blue areas won't do it either. They have to get bold and go into strong red areas. Exactly. I said that in 2017. She had to decline running for governor because she was polling so badly. Because all she was doing was, what do you call that now? Demographic politics. It's not that, but like the kind of politics where she well, pandering. Yeah, she was pandering. That is what, you know what? That's better. That's better than what I was going for. Identity politics. Yes, she was just focused on identity politics instead of substance, and people are sick of that. The Democrats have a farm of paid trolls that they use to say positive things about people like Kamala and attack people like Bernie. We need a farm. We need a farm of leftists to troll Democrats and Republicans and elevate people like Zoran, for one. The mayor in Seattle. Are there any other leftists that are running for office of note? I mean, myself, but I'm not trying to do like, oh, we need an army of trolls for me. Well, thank you, chat. I appreciate. You're allowed to say that, but it would be self-aggrandizement. But anyway, are there any other leftists that are noteworthy that are running right now? I don't think there are. Like, I don't think there have been any other noteworthy leftists that have been running. So, like, if you can count them on one hand, me, Zoran, and the mayor of Seattle, okay, and the mayor of Chicago, that's 4 people. 4. I can do the 4 with this hand. That is 4 people. There are 457,000 elected positions in the United States of America, and approximately a third of them are up for grabs every year, because that includes county and local, right? And county and local are on odd years. Federal and state are usually on even years. So roughly a third of them are up for grabs every 2 years. Okay, 2 years, not every year. So 150,000, right? 115,000. So about 115,000. Hold on, did I just forget how to do math? I did. Okay, so 150,000, because I'm stupid, sorry. 150,000 positions are roughly up for grabs every single 2 years. And I've named 4 candidates that actually have our interests in mind that are of any note. That's not good. Das ist nicht gut. Es no bueno. Los nuevo est bueno. I mean, I don't... Niet. We're definitely not really good. All these DSAs and socialists of that and young people of this and the other and the thing, they don't have infrastructure. They have local chapters at best, and then they have to fundraise a couple grand to go to their national meeting because the national organization can't afford to get them to go wherever they need to be. That's the fucking problem. There are 270 million voting age people in this country at any given time. If every single person donated $1 each month to a bucket, that would be $270 million that we could use to promote the 150,000 positions that are up for grabs every 2 years. Now imagine if we had an organization that was deserving of that kind of support. We would dominate the electoral process, and yes, we could electorally conquer fascism. But in the meantime, people are going to have to get the fuck up and out there and go and do the thing, or at the very least, vote independent. You know, people who aren't affiliated with a political party. And that's not happening. Like, we are legitimately not doing nearly enough to combat this fascism other than banging our hands on the keyboard. Oh, shit. And I'm worried they're all going to like the corporate fruit punch. America big. Why? Good question. How do you do the 3 with your fingers? Like this? Like a German? The right way to do it? Is that pro-Israel goon watching this show? Yeah, that's funny. Is Grease Carpaccio here? Because we need to We need to get our Destiny liaison shit going on. Also, even though I was thinking of Mizkiv when I was talking shit about Destiny, I'll debate Mizkiv too. Not that I'm trying to be a debate me bro, but fuck it if that's what the people want. Let's see. Meanwhile, we have the first trans woman pushing for Wall Street bullshit while lying about helping minorities. Yep, that's a thing. I was just imagining how a communist revolution would happen in a country filled with the service sector and little means of material production. Yeah, that's because that's not going to happen in America. It just isn't. We might have a revolution that might evolve into the second Civil War, but it's definitely not going to be a communist revolution. Not in America. The guy who challenged me to a debate, is he watching? I don't know. I think if I click on it, users in chat. Nope. He does not seem to be watching right now. Destiny is banned from Twitch. I have heard you say this before. I'm learning. Okay. Price is Right. Loser music. Yeah. He's on Kick with the pedos, which is disturbing, and specifically why we don't stream on Kick. Once I found that out, I was like, nope. Cancel my account. Yeah, debate me bros are stupid. In fact, didn't we actually try to debate a debate me bro on stream live? Like, I had to call him up, and then we were debating him, and I picked the most controversial subject that he had. He wouldn't deviate from the 6 subjects that he posted. And then, of those 6 subjects, I picked one. We agreed on it. So I said, you know what? For the sake of your stream and my stream, I will take the opposite of your views. Then I challenged him on his views with the cookie cutter arguments that the conservatives make about, what was it even, like healthcare or whatever? And he had nothing. He had nothing, but he had 450 viewers. And I'm like, how the fuck is this guy popular and has zero nuance or understanding about politics or policy, and yet we're struggling here to build a platform? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And I actually did debate. I actually am a policy person. I actually did run for office. And this fucking chud is like, debate me, bro. I only know how to repeat my predisposition notions. How are you any better than Ben Shapiro? Or Charlie Kirk? Or Destiny? You ain't. I put the XQC vid on for today. Okay, well, I guess we'll watch that at some point. Do you want to take a moment to give us your take on the school district in Tennessee adopting the policy that if you're sick and go to a doctor, you can't use that as a valid excuse for your absence? I believe that's actually one of our videos. I thought I saw that when I was scrolling through this earlier. Yes. We will be talking about that. My opinion is that's fucked up, because why would you want sick kids going to school, getting the entire school sick, plus the teachers, the students, the staff, the whatever? Also, it's already privileged to get a doctor's note because most people can't afford doctor's excuses anyway. So, like, what in the actual fuck? You can't go to the hospital anymore. And in fact, employers are beginning to ignore doctor's notes to justify sick absences as well. It's like, why do you want people to be sick around you? Also, I hope they bring that same energy to their own offices. All those fucking interns that they have, I hope those interns come into work sick and get that congressman sick or that state rep sick with, like, the bird flu or swine flu or something horrible. And then those interns can look them in the eyes and be like, listen here, you dumb motherfucker. That's exactly what you get. Fuck around and find out. So I guess now we don't have to watch the video, because that would be my response. Well, okay, back to the debating, because I'm just trying to catch up to the chat here. These debate me bros could care about winning, not necessarily making good points. Well, you can't win unless you've made a good point. Because I can be loud too and talk over you. That doesn't mean I just won. That just means I was louder and more obnoxious than you. And that's stupid. I find that revolting. It's one of the reasons why I did drop off of the internet from social media, because everybody was to debate me, bro. And everybody was like, I'm talking over you. I'm speaking through my nose, so I'm smarter than you. Motherfucker, who the hell are you? And why would I waste my time giving you any sort of validation or credibility by debating you? All right. America is cursed with the motive of profit. America has moved its production. You should have done it before World War II. We absolutely should have. And the worst part, Ruben, is there was a communist movement in America. And that is actually why Social Security, Medicare, and the 40-hour work week and unions started becoming more prominent because of the communist movement. The idea was, if we give the workers communism light, unions, healthcare, and a guaranteed salary in retirement, maybe they'll drop all this communist rhetoric. And it worked. Hence, America being the most propagandized country in the world. I kind of look like Mizkif. First of all, I'm handsome. He's not. I'm in much better shape than him. But sure, he's more popular and he has attractive women coming onto his show. I'll give him that. Jovan Bradley. I have no idea who that is. Things do not make sense for me. There's a vid about it on the list. Now you guys are having your own conversation. Who decided to always just do the dumb thing? American voters, by voting for the lesser of two evils since Nixon? My job doesn't care what the doctor says. You get written up anyway. My job's the same way. And the best part is I work for a food company. A food company. And the operators who work on the lines that produce the food will get a point for using a sick day, whether or not they have a doctor's note. So they're not going to use a sick day, nor waste the time to get a doctor's note. They're going to come to work sick and work in the factory that makes food, condiments, technically. I don't necessarily want to get doxxed at my job quite yet. I'm not quite certain I can just walk away from it yet. But it rhymes with Marzetti. So, and that isn't its own, like, it's not unique to just that company. Every company, Amazon, Walmart, Target, they will punish you for using your sick time. And they will force you to come to work sick so you can get everybody else sick and all the product sick. Like, that makes no fucking sense to me. School policies like that are common in Asia. Well, that's stupid too. Asia did it wrong. They should have stuck to their ancient ways. Let's see. They have a wrestler in political office in Tennessee. They say going while sick teaches you a valuable skill to take into being an adult, which is that the system will fuck you and go ahead and get used to the taste of boot leather. Wrestlers can stay out as long as possible to nurse their own injuries with doctors working with them so they can just say, I want to be a wrestler when I get to be an adult so my health isn't treated better. Right. That's the thing. There's always an exception. Your boss will always be able to take a sick day without punishment. I'm salary at my job. I can take as many sick days as I want, technically, because I can work from home. At the end, and I did that last year. I got horrifically sick because I went to a new environment with a lot of sick people, apparently, and I got horrifically sick within my first month, and I had to take multiple days, almost like weeks worth of time off. I was like, sir, I will do this job, but I can't come in. So if you want me to take leave, I will, or I will be able to work from home. And I was fortunate enough to be allowed to work from home. But there's another comment right there. I was allowed to work from home because I was sick. That should be a given. Sir, I'm sick. I'm not too sick to do the job. I am, however, too sick to come in. But I will do the job. Just letting you know. That's how it should be. And in most other countries, that is how it is. Or I say most, but like, that's actually not entirely true, is it? I think there's only a few countries that are actually decent with labor laws. And again, this is coming from the guy who wants to completely overthrow the way our government operates and the way our culture and society functions, right? And even I have to adhere to capitalist overlords. For now, my financial circumstances might change precipitously by the end of next month. And if that's the case, get fucked! That's exactly what debate bros do. They talk over other people. Exactly, and that's dumb. I believe really loving debating is a form of mental illness. Not debating anyone on that. I'll debate you on that. They are training the kids to be good little workers under capitalism. Jovan Bradley is the guy that I debated. When the fuck did I debate Jovan Bradley? Oh, you mean the streamer? Yeah. Okay. Hey, if there's any Jovan Bradley stands here, I'm telling you to tell him that he's a punk. And if he really wants to debate politics, or any policy for that matter, he needs to sack up. Because that was a fucking travesty. And honestly, if you can't debate on the opposite end of the issue, like, for instance, I'm very much so pro-choice, but if I don't have the ability to debate pro-life, as in the topic being abortion, if I can't take either side of it, then I am not versed enough in the topic to be debating it in the first place. And I will die on that fucking hill. I can make every single argument that the pro-life community makes, and I can make every single argument that the pro-choice community makes, and I stand by my personal values that pro-choice is the right way, in spite of knowing the logic behind the pro-life agenda. Because fundamentally, religion, fundamentally, individual body autonomy. Guess what wins in America? Because we're not a theocracy. I got a little chocolate on my finger. I work at a school and they also want me to come and sick, which is insane because then you're going to get all the kids sick and they're going to get everybody else sick and then they're going to get those people sick. The fact that schools aren't like epicenters of plagues every single year is insane to me. Like, that's just proof that herd inoculation works. All right. I keep trying to get caught up on chat, but y'all keep chatting. Damn it, chat! Asia has the best educational results in the world. Just look at Asian kids in America. I won't disagree with that, but I think there are elements of Asian education and the Asian workforce that are extreme. And if you want to look at the best educational program in the world, it's actually Finland. And that is actually has the smallest amount of actual school time, no homework, no testing. And then from school to work is also not insane. There's an actual like pipeline, like an actual progression. I think there's like a healthy mix. If we took the respect that is instilled from Japanese specifically education system from a very young age, that respect of society, of the community as a whole, and how to, like, you know, not being above getting your own hands dirty and such. Combining that with the pedagogy of Finland. Pedagogy is the scientific word for how to teach. And then the educational breakdowns that Germany has, which is Haupt, Real, Hoch, and Kunstschule? No, that can't be right. Haupt, Real, Hoch. There was a fourth one, but it's essentially... those four words don't mean anything to you. Basically, regular high school, advanced high school, collegiate high school, and then vocational high school. They have four different brands, and in their case, in the Germans' case, if you go to regular high school, you graduate, you enter the workforce as a laborer. If you go to the advanced high school, you graduate, and then you can go into a certain level of college or like associate's degree level of work and enter in the workforce as like a tradesman. They also have a vocational school, specifically a vocational high school, where you learn your trade and then graduate and then end up in that trade. So like that would be the Real and the whatever the Fachschule. Anyway, there's the vocational and the advanced, and those two are like on a similar path. Associate's degree versus vocation. And then you have Hochschule, which is your graduate high school, where you go into your degreed career fields like engineer, physics, lawyer, banker, doctor, scientist, right? And I think if we had the curriculum of Finland, the school breakdown of Germany, but instead of graduating at a younger age, that's the path you choose. Once you get into the 9th grade or even the 7th grade, you get to pick one of these 4 paths. And if you change your mind throughout any of that time, you can, because it's America. And then the espiritu de corps, for lack of a better word, that Japan has, if you combine those 3 elements in education, I think you would have the closest thing to a correct education curriculum that you could possibly find. Sorry for going a little technical there. Johnny, glad you came in when you got sick. What is 1 + 1? 1 + 1 vomit. That would actually be 3. 1 + 1 with a remainder of vomit. They want you to come in, make others sick, and shut down the school effectively. Yep. Something channel. All right. They say Dutch people are direct, but you're way more direct than most people I know. Oh, wait. German blood. My bad. I only realized while typing. No, Germans are probably the most autistic country on the planet. You can't fucking look me in the eyes. Go to Germany, look me in the eyes, speak to Germans, look me in the eyes, and then tell me that Germans aren't autistic. All of them. First of all, they have one of the most intricate rail systems in the world. They love trains even when they were the bad guys. They love Excel spreadsheets, data, and things being done the right way. Which is also our campaign, the right way. Ronan is the right way. So, no. And beer is part of the food pyramid. Not alcohol. I'm just saying, like, that is autism. That is autism. My dad was from Castilla in Spain. They're known for being very direct. I like directness. Yeah, well, that's why we work well together. Ana La Diosa, I hate when people don't say what they really think of. Typing feels like giving homework, and I don't want to be a teacher. Yeah, well, that's why I get to have the fancy microphone. True, have German family. They are autistic. No hate, though. No, there is no hate. I'm just saying it's a fact. Germans are so autistic. I have German cousins, and they are kind of autistic. Well, here's the thing. Autism is a natural evolutionary trait for the human race and necessary. How do you think bridges got designed? How do you think huts were invented? How do you think agriculture got its start? Because of the normies who were picking berries and hunting boar? No, it was the autistics that were like, ugga dugga. Ugga dugga. Ugga dugga. Ugga dugga. Ugga dugga. Ugga dugga. Dugga. Ugga. Dugga. They invented agriculture. Autistic people think outside the box and they think very linearly. They invented math. They invented science. They invented literature. They invented poetry. You think poetry has rules because some artsy-fartsy, high and horny bard came up with those rules? No! An autistic person was like, I see you write good. I write better. Write better with math. Math rules, write better, good. And that's how you got the iambic pentameter. So don't fuck with me. No. Anything that is structured, you can thank an autistic person for. Maybe, I don't know, you always say that when I get on my little soapboxes that I'm crashing out, so I guess I'm crashing out. But autistic people can be very dangerous if they become the richest person in the world. Well, that's where you're wrong, because autistic people don't end up rich. The people who end up that rich are sociopaths, and they are not autistic. I will declare that autistic people are incapable of being vehemently rich, because an autistic person would not ever want to be rich. They would want to be left alone and fix the problem and not work with individuals and dealing with the minutia of what their solution to the problem created, right? Autistic people don't want money. They don't care about money. They want a dark or very dimly lit room, a computer, or if they're more artistically inclined, their tools of their trade, and to be left alone. That is what autistic people want. And if money happens to be necessary to acquire those things, they will get just enough money to get exactly what they need so they can continue to be left alone. Elon Musk is not autistic. He is a psychopath. He is a psychopath. He is an evil motherfucker devoid of human empathy, which it's sociopath or psychopath. They're not interchangeable. They are technically different, but definition of a psychopath: a person affected by chronic mental disorder with abnormal or violent social behavior. Okay, so that's not psychopath. He's not a sociopath. I think he's a sociopath then. Definitely a sociopath. And I don't want the AI over you. A mental health disorder characterized by disregard for other people. Those with antisocial personality disorder may begin to show symptoms in childhood, but the condition can't be diagnosed until adolescence or adulthood. Those with antisocial personality disorder tend to lie, break laws, act impulsively, and lack regard for their own safety or the safety of others. Symptoms may lessen with age. Treatment may include talk therapy and support for affected common members. That's antisocial personality disorder, not quite sociopathy. But even then, that is much fucking closer to what Elon Musk is. He has complete disregard for anyone but himself. And you can see that in his actions. Oh, he talks a big game. We're going to Mars. But anytime anybody challenges him, he destroys a fucking fit if anybody contradicts him. So no, Elon Musk is not autistic. He is a sociopath. Clinically and definitively a sociopath. And I will once again die on that hill, but not before he gets a necktie measurement. I guess you ever walk around in Germany, you will notice something strange instantly. Okay, well, I guess that was the end of your thought there. Twitch is really offended by Lamau. Elon Musk is just using drugs. Correct. He is definitely using drugs, and he's a sociopath. And he's not a genius. Salatwurzel? Speaking of Germany and autism, welcome to the channel. But yeah, no, if he was a real genius, those rockets wouldn't be exploding, and he wouldn't have turned Twitter into a Nazi cesspool that was also inefficient. Like, he's not a genius. There's no way he's a genius. He isn't even smarter than your average fifth grader. I guarantee it. Maybe he's a bit autistic, but the average German autisms him out of the room. Right, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm autistic, but German, so I'm normal. I guess that's how that works. Yeah, you can't be... Well, I don't know. I think sociopathy is genetic, actually. I think it is like a genetic DNA thing. Yeah. Holy shit, I got caught up on chat. Let's go. And I did this. Both hands, not one. Elon Musk made a game when he was a child. Did he, though? Or did his PR team claim he made a game when he was a child? He also didn't make PayPal. He also didn't make Tesla. He also didn't make SpaceX. He bought them. So the difference is he has a shit ton of money. A shit ton of money. So he can buy accolades. Dude, I peaked in 2008. What are you talking about? I learned what dabbing was when I was in the military. When I was tutoring teenagers. So, no, I peaked in 2008. Oh, his mom says that he's a genius? My mom doesn't say I'm a genius. She says I'm a handsome boy, though. So, I mean, that counts for something, right? All right. I said we'd get to all these videos, and it turns out we didn't. So, let's actually skip ahead a little. Oh, wait, no, we don't need to do the Tennessee thing, because we actually covered that without needing the video. Oh, okay, so down at the bottom is the, okay.
You live in the Big Bang Theory or Pangria?
What the fuck is Pangria? That sounds like some World of Warcraft thing.
It's where islands, like the whole world was an island and it got split into continents.
The whole world or our planet?
Our planet. The world is the planet.
Well, one theory doesn't affect the other. They're both part of the same thing.
No, I know. But what I'm saying is, you know how like there's continents, there's
Yes, they got broken apart. Yes.
They got broken apart. So that's what that is. So I'm saying, which one do you believe in?
No, I believe in the Big Bang makes all the planets and shit, and the planet is in a certain state or shape, or not shape, but has certain continent. It's made a certain way, and then meteor happens and it splits up, right? And then we have continents. That's kind of how it happens. So they're both the same theory, right?
Sure. Okay.
One doesn't affect the other.
Okay. I take it back. I may have been a genius up until watching that. I lost so many IQ points just now watching that exchange. Like that, there's no way they are that dumb. You cannot be well, that's not true. That's not true, Sam, because in America, the literacy rate is below that of a 5th grade reading level. So evidently, I think a quarter of Americans believe that the Earth is 6,000 years old and flat. So, you know what? I guess I'm wrong. I guess I am wrong. All right. I would like to formally acknowledge to the internet that I, Samuel Ronan, President of the United States, am wrong. People are, in fact, capable of being that fucking stupid. And that is why we need universal education, which you can be found on samronan.com/issues/universal education. Christ, that hurt to watch. That first of all, Pangea was a continent. It was the first continent, and then due to tectonic movement, it split into the continents that we know of today. And then any islands that have been created outside of that are also due to volcanic activity. Anyway. All right, Salat Wurzel. There are a lot of kids making games with basic code and game maker engines, by the way. I learned Visual Basic when I was 11, but I'm not a genius. I'm an idiot. Well, to be clear, I'm not saying that a kid couldn't make a game. I'm saying that he, Elon Musk, did not. I also created a game using Unity. I turned Esoterra, the card game, which is loosely based off a Triple Triad, into a functional game that you can actually play. But I realized that making an app to make the actual apparatus is not fun at all, and I lost interest. But the game itself, it functions and is still there. I was on YouTube, and that place I won't name is lying about giving aid to the people of Palestine. Shocking. And yeah, 4 decades ago, they didn't have Visual Basic or game engine. So yeah, unless you're telling me he was able to code like Pong from like code like binary and what was the original script? It was like, wasn't it just like, it was basic. It wasn't even visual. It was just basic. Was it not? DOS. That's the one I was thinking. Unless he created Pong from DOS, I don't believe it. How are they wrong though? Okay, as I say, I explained why they were wrong, but yeah. Game engines and programming languages existed 4 decades ago, just like they exist today. Game engines most certainly did not exist in 1985. I guarantee you they did not exist in 1985. BASIC did. I don't think Java did. I don't think Java was invented until the 2000s. Or the 90s, maybe. But neither here nor there. Knew it would surprise you, these people have fuck you money. Yeah, that's the problem. That they got to debate about geology, tectonics, whatever. And they got tens of thousands of views because they're popular. That's like watching... I can only make like derisive high school cliche connections to that. With someone like Playmaker on Unity, it's pretty doable. Sure, I'm not saying regular people can't make games. That wasn't the argument. I'm saying you and I both are not going to make a game from BASIC. That's not going to happen. Assembly, that's the other one, yes. Roller Coaster Tycoon was made entirely in assembly. Well, I don't believe you created DOS, but I do believe you were well into being an adult when DOS was created. Elon is like a 50-year-old still lying about how good of a gamer he is. Right! He's objectively a bad gamer, and every anecdote that has ever came back about his involvement in coding, such as when he was in PayPal, very heavily stated unabashedly that he was bad at coding and that they would have to fix his mistakes every single night when he left. That's how so no, I don't believe for a second he could actually code a game. I don't believe it. Yeah, and his daughter called him out. Yeah. He is top global in some game. He is not. Ruben, he is not. He paid somebody to pay under his name to be the top. He went on stream, folks, on Path of Exile 2 and could not get past the opening boss. You cannot tell me, you cannot convince me that he is a world-class gamer and can't beat the first boss in a standard RPG game. No. That's not a debate. Just like the sky is blue is not a debate. Or that we breathe oxygen and nitrogen and whatever else in those molecules. Like, these aren't debatable topics. He is not a good gamer. He is not a genius. That is not up for debate. Just as the earth is not flat. That is not up for debate. It is empirically proven over and over again, to include by flat earthers, that the earth is round. Elon Musk is not autistic. He's a sociopath. Elon Musk is not a genius. And Elon Musk is not a good gamer. If you play games, you're a gamer. But that doesn't make you good. He had his daughter play for him when she was 12 because she was better than him. Exactly. And don't get me wrong, most older people are bad at games. Especially from the generation prior to the 80s. Because they didn't have games growing up. We did. I did. Anna's a little bit too old to say that, but like most other people that are millennials or younger grew up with games. I'm not saying that there weren't games like Atari and like at the arcades or whatever, but most adults weren't really into that, or there weren't as many adults into it. So it makes sense. Yeah, everything's Nintendo, everything's Pikachu. So that doesn't surprise me, but like, just own it. You played video games as a kid. What, Pong? Like, that's the only game that you could have possibly played as a kid. And I don't even believe then, because when you were a kid, I mean, Mount Vesuvius still hadn't erupted. So, like, hold on. What was that one Egyptian board game? Senate. Yeah, I could believe you playing Senate. Yeah. I absolutely believe that you played Senate. 100% believe that. With the Pharaoh. I'm goated at Pac-Man. I am not goated at Pac-Man. I did get pretty decent at Tetris for a while there, but certainly nothing to, write home about. Like with old school games. Yeah, I could do a mean Asteroids. Galaga. I could do a mean Galaga. But yeah. All right. So, well, we kind of covered that through the what is this? Democracy Now? Yeah, we covered that one through Democracy Now. What else do we got? Oh, good news.
Scientists may have just cured a woman's type 1 diabetes with a single dose of lab-grown stem cells. This is Amanda Smith from London, Ontario. She is one of the first people with type 1 diabetes to ditch insulin entirely as part of a new clinical trial called Forward. Scientists started with pluripotent stem cells.
I'm with her.
Blank slate cells with the potential to become almost anything. Then, through a carefully timed cocktail of signals and conditions, they coaxed them into becoming fully differentiated islet cells. These included beta cells, a specialized cell found in the pancreas that produces insulin, and the ones that are usually destroyed by type 1 diabetes. These engineered cells were then delivered into the liver, where they integrated with the body's own tissues and started to regulate glucose. In this trial, 10 of the 12 participants became insulin-free within a single year.
Wow.
If this scales, it could eliminate the need for daily injections, glucose monitors, and insulin pumps. At the moment, patients like Amanda will still have to take immunosuppressants to stop the cells being rejected by the body, but in the future, these cells may be able to be made from the patient's own cells. And finally, instead of just managing diabetes, we may be able to treat it at the root cause.
See, and that right there, ladies and gentlemen, right there, chat, that is what we should be focusing on globally. Why the fuck are we starving children in Palestine? Why the fuck are we bombing them into oblivion? Why are we arguing about natural gas in the Ukraine? Why are we terrorizing Latinos in America? Why are the Nazis making a resurgence in Germany? And the Mussolini, whatever the fuck they were called, in Italy, making a resurgence in Italy? Like, why are we regressing as a people, as a species? We are on the cusp of curing type 1 diabetes, and there's other medical breakthroughs that are listed there. Why are we not investing in this shit? Why? And hence why I want to be president. Why I will become president. Because we have to start doing something worthwhile while there's still a world and a human race to do something worthwhile with. Because at the rate we're going, we are going to end up in like Gundam, Elysium, whatever dystopian fascist nightmare where we all end up dead. And that's not okay. I was looking for a video about the Chinese curing diabetes, but there was only one recent one and it was all over the place. Fair enough. The guy spent half the video bitching about the Dalai Lama. Again, people need to stay in their lane. Leave the politics to the politicians. Need a cure against those Nazis first. Well, we have a cure for that. It's acute and abrupt lead poisoning. Sometimes it can also be used with very tightly fit neckties. And there is the condensed version of specific chemicals found in apple seeds. And other options also include very close shaves. Very close shaves. So, all of which is to say, accountability is the best cure for white supremacy and any sort of discrimination. If you're going to be a racist or a bigot, and you go to prison for it forever, chances are you're going to stop being bigoted. Of course, you also have to create a society in which bigotry doesn't have a chance to grow in the first place, such as true equity and true equality without trying to pit people against one another. Again, deprogramming society from white settler colonialism, which is what everybody in America, Europe, and Canada has been struggling with for the past 500 years. Although, or as long as they've been around. Because we haven't been around for 500 years. I don't want people to be like, oh, the president thinks we've been around for 500 years. No, motherfucker. Up to 500 years. Shut the fuck up.
It's going to be a very different structure. The Labour Party is a very top-down, highly centralised party that is full of control freaks who want to control whatever goes on within the party.
You were at the top at that time. You could change.
Yes, I did a great deal to try and change that by establishing community organisers, and during my leadership of the party the membership went up to 600,000, the largest ever in its history. I'd be surprised if it's even a third of that figure now. They refuse to reveal what their membership is. We're not going to be a party that's controlling everybody in every aspect of what they do. What we want is the excitement of communities, what they're doing to develop and improve their own lives, their own communities. This is going to be community-led, community-based, grassroots-led. This is going to be very different, and you know what? It's going to be fun.
So, here's the thing about that. Good for Jeremy Corbyn. Good for the party that he's trying to implement. He's saying more or less the same things I said when I ran for DNC chair, is that we need to focus our efforts at the local grassroots level. That is and remains true. But partisan politics in of itself is the problem. No matter what party is created, inevitably it creates a hierarchy. Whether intentional or not, it creates a hierarchy. And that hierarchy can be a developed one, as in, here are the leaders and here are the subordinates. Or it can be, well, I was the one that created this organization and this committee, therefore I am in charge. And I'm only going to get my friends and people who support me into these hierarchies. Again, if we had more autistic people in charge, because we don't give a flying fuck about authority or delineation of powers, we just care that whoever's in the position does the position's work. That being said, I hope it works out for them, which is also why I advocate for a centralized organization that can utilize resources but distribute them equitably according to the needs of the groups at the ground level. All these parties and groups and governments and all these organizations, the only purpose they serve or should serve as the organization name and title is to be a pot of money. That's it. And maybe a couple of guiding hands who are familiar with the processes involved. But beyond that, the slight amount of stratification, which even then becomes risky in of itself, it's just about the pot of money. If you can pool resources and distribute them accordingly, you have a far more effective party or group or organization than one that spends hours in committee debating, well, how should we spend this $10? Well, we have $1,000 we can spend in this pot of money. How should we do that? That is fucking useless, and that's what the CIA taught Americans in Russia or in the Soviet Union with how to disrupt and undermine institutions by trying to integrate and disrupt their organization through asinine inquiries and focusing on the minutia until it just disrupts everything. I could go into further detail, but the point I'm trying to make here is grassroots organizers know more about what they need with their money and resources than anybody at the top or even at the regional levels. All the top and the regional levels need to do is organize within their level, within their area of responsibility, but not siphon the resources. The majority of the resources should be going to the grassroots. And whatever's left should be at the regional, and then whatever's left needs to go to the national to do promotion. if anything, functional organization should be a ground up type of discussion where the people at the top discuss things about the top level of things, but within their own niche. And the middle talks about the middle within their niche. Again, the federal government needs to only worry about the federal fucking government. The states need to only worry about the states. The counties only need to worry about the counties. And the cities need to only worry about the cities. But all of the resources, the majority of the resources, should be going to cities, followed by counties, followed by states, followed by the federal government, not the other way around. That's ideally how that works. But if you're going to have a centralized government, then fine. You can still have the majority of the resources at the federal level, but then it needs to be distributed accordingly so that none of the cities are left without. The priority would still be, this is where the pot of money goes, taxes, and it gets distributed to the cities first, then the states. Like, again, not rocket science. To me, anyway, I feel like it's that simple. I feel like it's that simple because it is that simple. Like, think about the military. The units request the funding that they need in order to fulfill their mission. They make that request to their squadron, their battalion, their platoon, whatever, and then it goes to the group, which is what the Air Force calls it, and then it goes up and up and up and up and up until it goes to the Department of Defense and the various secretaries. And then they distribute the funds back down from the secretaries to the units that needed it. But it is bottom up when it comes to resources. Now, obviously, for command and mission, it's top down. But until we get to a point where political leaders actually have the wherewithal to recognize top-down distribution and to actually be able to dictate that, it's like, well, we will give the resources that were requested, but this is the mission. The Southwest region needs to focus on agriculture. The Southeast region needs to focus on trade. The coastlines need to focus on trade and immigration. And then the central states, they need to focus on manufacturing and development, right? Whatever the case may be, unless you have the capacity to understand the grand logistics and management of a country, you have no business talking about it. Now, chat has been extremely quiet for the past 5 minutes. Did I lose y'all? Did I go off on a choo-choo train of thought and left everybody at the station? I'm going to say yes. All right. For the rest of y'all who are just listening while on the bathroom, took a little nap? Wow. I'm sorry that I'm actually representing real policy and real implementation of policy whilst giving information on how that organization can actually be done, which is the things that we allegedly want to happen. Forgive me for doing exactly what was requested. All right. I don't think we actually managed to cover the Thailand-Cambodia truce.
And Doug.
Limu Emu.
Okay, here's what...
Sung Chu Lin had kept her restaurant open through 5 days of armed hostilities between Cambodian and Thai forces, the latest conflict in more than a decade, in a long-standing border dispute.
I decided to stay because someone had to feed the doctors and police officers. Everybody else stopped selling.
But even after the two countries had agreed to a ceasefire, she's still the only one in her community serving meals. That's because thousands of families from across the province of Oderminchai have opted to stay in evacuation camps for the time being, despite the poor living conditions.
Staying here is safer. I do not dare to go back home. I will go back when the authorities tell us to.
The provincial capital, Samrong, still looks deserted. The streets and homes empty. Schools and businesses remain closed.
The ceasefire between Cambodia and Thailand got off to a shaky start. The Thai army has accused Cambodians of firing at multiple locations in violation of the deal. Cambodia has denied taking any military action since the truce came into effect.
An early morning delay in meetings between regional commanders also raised fears that the fragile peace deal could be derailed. But as Cambodian...
Now, here's the thing. As an American and president, I don't have any skin in this game. I don't have the right to dictate to Thailand and Cambodia a damn thing. But why are they fighting? Like, why are they fighting, and why does it need to be fighting? Why can't it be trade? Why can't it be negotiated? Why can't it be some other thing? Why does it always have to be, hey, let's go ahead and bomb villages at the border and murder innocent people to get our point across? I still to this day do not fucking understand that. I think both are dribbling their people, Thai military and Hun Sen Thai military, to get rid of the Sinawarta dynasty, Hun Sen, so his child can advance to be president. Oh, so it's a coup. All right. I can buy that. And that doesn't justify it, but I can buy that. I think ceasefire agreements don't mean anything for any country these days. No, they really don't. And they never really have, to be honest. Throughout history, ceasefires have only ever been a pause for both countries to rebuild their armies and defenses and reassess their battle plans. I don't think ceasefires have ever really resulted in lasting peace. If there is any example whatsoever of that being the case, it might be North Korea and South Korea, because technically the Korean War is not over. Or it wasn't over when I was active duty. So, according to MilwaukeeIndependent.com, 70 years after its signing, the Korean War armistice remains a symbol of unresolved conflict. Without a formal peace treaty, the Korean War has never technically ended. This legal ambiguity has been used by both Koreas to justify extensive military spending, mandatory conscription, and the preservation of one of the world's most fortified borders. Case in point, it doesn't seem like North and South Korea are going to go at it anytime soon, but that peace is an exceedingly fragile one. You see what I'm saying? And that is ideally what ceasefires or armistices are supposed to be, but it never results in that, or this is the only example in history where that is the case.
Military officials crossed into Thai-held territory, tensions eased.
Intention and establish communication lines to share information. If other issues arise, they must seek advice from the top.
Even then, only a handful of people headed back to border towns, because while most here share the government's optimism, they're waiting to see if the ceasefire holds. Barnabelow, Al Jazeera, Order-Minchai Province, Cambodia.
Yeah, right. If they ended it, they wouldn't be able to do the military spending, which is always what all these countries want. People want democracy. Leaders don't. Leaders want dictatorships. There are so few instances in history where leaders did not try and accumulate more power. Very, very few. And in fact, one of them is Cincinnatus. But in most cases, there is always a consolidation of power. And that includes U.S. presidents. That includes prime ministers, kings, dictators, obviously dictators. And it's always the same thing. People want peace. That's all people want. They don't give a shit what the Akasi is called. Democracy, monarchy, dictatory. They don't give a shit. Fascism. They don't care what the government does so long as they, the people, are left in peace. But that's also the problem, because people who crave power should never be near it. But the people who are complacent and enjoying their peace end up getting these power-hungry criminals into power. And then they lose their peace. And this cycle has been going on for 12,000 plus years. So until we can break that cycle, we're never going to have peace on this planet. And that's a fucking problem. Hence why I intend to resolve this issue through giving people more power and authority and checks and balances against their government, to include blatantly establishing the legality of violently overthrowing the government if necessary. the Constitutional Court suspension of Pai Tong Tarn on July 1st, following a petition by 36 conservative senators, was seen as a judicial move backed by military-aligned royalist factions to dismantle the Shinawatra family's political influence. And, you know, they're going to try justifying it however they want to justify it. But at the end of the day, this looks like a military coup to turn into a military dictatorship. We're going to switch scenes here? No. Okay, thanks. All right. Deutschland.
So this house I'm in right now, let me
That's
show
not
you
Germany.
how I invested
That's
into
Ohio.
it for just a few $100s.
And how to buy property. Now, this is Germany. Polizei with weird markings on their shoulders against people. Das ist nicht gut. Look, and they're doing the same shit that the Americans do, pulling people out from the group and then arresting the shit out of them. And daring people. And look, that's a woman. Here's the thing, I'm not trying to be sexist, but they're targeting the weaker protesters. Do you understand that? They are targeting the most vulnerable protesters. That's not good. That isn't necessarily fascist, but that is disturbing. That is power wielding itself to justify its existence and using the most vulnerable as the crucifixion, the example to be made for others. Like, this isn't okay. And look, they're covering their faces too. And how are these unauthorized? Because it's against Israel? Yeah. I guess we're not going to get any, like, details. But, like, look, that's a middle-aged woman that they're arm barring all the way to breaking her shoulder. Like, this was a peaceful protest until the police got involved. And that's the point. The police escalate every single one of these situations. And the government... So, I don't think we need to watch all of this, because I'm just going to get angry. Here's the problem with protests. And it's not that I don't like protesting, and it's not that I don't like the idea of protesting. But protests are clearly ineffective the way that they're being conducted. There's not enough people, and the response of the government, of the state, is to shut it down instead of to listen to the protest. The whole point of protest is for the elected leaders to be like, oh, wow, maybe we fucked up. We should introspect and discuss their concerns, since they are obviously upset about this subject enough to protest about it. You know, maybe we should hear them out. But instead, what has happened throughout all of history is, wow, they are upset about this particular subject, and they are telling me to do something about it, the person that is capable of doing something about it. But I don't want to do anything about it. That's why I got my position of power and authority, because the thing that they're upset about is exactly what I stand for. So instead, hey, fuck these people up. And that's the problem with protesting. If the response to protesting is violence, state sanctioned violence, then your right to protest is that, I mean, all it is a matter of time until you get beaten by the state or arrested and jailed and declared a terrorist. So, well, okay, Mr. President, what else can we do then? Well, you can still protest. You just need to protest in even greater numbers. That's the thing. And if the protest itself only results in more and more police violence as a response, then you only have two options: escalate directly or riot. And that's what the state always wants, is to escalate to the violence. So if you start rioting, then they can start tear gassing and brutally attacking you and calling you extremist or whatever else. And then you have chaos, which is, again, something that the state can thrive in, because then they can convince everybody else who was not rioting that they need to stop the riots because it's disrupting which goes into the circle of self-actualization, self-justification for state-sanctioned police violence. So what am I getting at? What am I getting at here by bringing this up? So I don't put Anna to sleep again, or you guys who are watching to sleep again. If you're going to protest and your elected officials are not responsive, then direct action is necessary. Well, so what? You need to like burn their cars and infiltrate their buildings? Like what are you talking about? Direct action means disrupting their town halls, disrupting their work, their meetings, their assemblies. And yes, you'll get arrested from that too. You absolutely will. But if 300 people walk into a city council's office or little facility where they're debating, there's not enough cops to arrest all of you. Now they have to listen to you. Now there is no choice. Sure, they might get escorted by the police to flee, so then you go after them. And the next time they meet, you do it again and again and again and again, right? You have to force them to listen to you. There's other direct actions, petitions for recalls. At least in the United States, you can recall every single elected person. The process is different in every state, but it can be done. So, and I think we actually have links to that in the About Me page. No, we do not have that. Okay, something to add. That is something that I will add. Oh, what? Oh, no. Yes, we do. It's down there. How to contact, the contact tutorials, and contact your rep. Those two buttons. So if you go to the About Me page, or you type in Twitch TV or twitch.tv/Samuel Ronan/about, and you scroll down and you go to the panels, the two at the bottom in the middle, contact your rep and contact tutorials, those two will showcase how to do exactly what I just said, which is to initiate a recall of your elected officials. Yeah, bribing them. You could always play the capitalist game against them. It's like, all right, fine. How much did the police union give you? $10,000? Well, here's 10,001 to fuck them right off. Also an option. Cheeky, I like it. Yeah. So anyway, if protest doesn't work, direct action becomes necessary. And direct action can still be peaceful. I am not advocating for violence. I would never advocate for violence. Violence is wrong.
Auto insurance rates went up again in 2024.
I believe
which means
it.
it might be a
but
smart
it's
time to shop around
2025,
for a
so you
new
might want to
policy.
update your ad. So this is Greece, and Greek protesters are going to be preventing Israelis, which is awesome. Love this. No AC in hell. Let's go! They have become a pariah. And what's crazy is it hasn't stopped them in the slightest. It hasn't even slowed them down. And what's worse is I don't know that there were global protests on behalf of Jews during World War II when the Nazis were eradicating them. So now we have modern day Nazis eradicating Palestinians. We have global protests. The established United Nations, sanctions against Israel, nations sanctioning individually, as individuals, Israel, and various prime ministers within Israel. And it's still not slowing the genocide in the slightest. Nor are any of the countries willing to break through the blockade. Do you know how easy it would be to break the Israeli blockade? One U.S. carrier. That would do it. That would fucking do it. Any carrier would do it, to be honest. Because the carriers tend to have bombers on them or fighter planes. And that usually like several dozen or up to several dozen. Boop. Plus an astronomical fuck ton of guns. And 9,000 people, 7,000 people. So, no, it would not be tough at all to flex military muscle and force Israel's hand. But none of these countries, not even China, Japan, or Russia, are willing to actually push the issue. They just want to go live, go behind the podium and be like, test. We, the People's Republic of China, condemn Israel and the Western world for their barbarism against Palestinians. And as the Prime Minister of China, I, Xi Jinping, declare that we, the Chinese people of the Republic of China, are going to take direct action and give aid to the Palestinians by airdropping one airplane a day. When, sure, I get that if China actually did roll some tanks through Israel, that would spark World War III outright. But at the same time, why isn't every country at the very least sending an airdrop? Why don't we have the Berlin airlift, the Gaza airlift? Like, I don't understand why that isn't spontaneously happening globally, especially now that it is in that final stage of starvation. It kills me. It's killing them, and it kills me that the solution is so fucking simple, but instead we're gonna go with the Nazi solution. Guess we'll pay attention to what.
Hey, Brian, so there's some
this
counter-programming
administration
going
did.
on here at the White House. It seems a trio of fact sheets just being released saying the president has signed some executive orders on trade, formalizing some moves, some of which he had threatened, some of which are new. The first is the president says he's going to be revoking entirely the de minimis threshold for all packages coming in from abroad. It'll be taking effect at the end of August. Now, this is something that will affect companies like Shein and Temu. Amazon could be exposed here. It takes away this loophole that allows small packages worth less than $800 to come into the U.S. duty-free. He says effective August 29th, all of those packages will have...
So, not only is he fucking us with tariffs, not only is he fucking us by making all of our shit more expensive, because we get all of our shit from China, now, even if you buy small shit, cheap shit from China or abroad, you're going to get the full weight and fury of these ignorant tariffs. That is fucking stupid. Like, that's beyond stupid. Hey, shit's expensive broadly, and what few things didn't get their prices increased, we're going to increase those as well. So get fucked, poor people. This is insane.
Have to face tariffs based on where they're coming from. Those country-specific tariffs will start to take effect. So that will be a big change, Brian, when that one takes effect. The second fact sheet says that the president now has formally signed that 50% copper tariff into law. That's something, or into executive order, I should say. That comes as a result of that national security investigation. He's been threatening it for a few weeks now, but we hadn't yet seen it formalized. Now he says it will be taking effect, and we can see an impact. Copper shares had been down, I think now about 19%, it looks like. So
that's
another
damn
big
near
impact
20%.
there. And then the third one, Brian,
it dropped a fifth of its value because of this dumb motherfucker. Like, that's not smart economics. Even if, he says that Americans make too much money, then he's even dumber. You don't become a billionaire because people can't buy your shit, and you can't exploit people if they can't buy your shit in the first place. Slave labor still isn't going to get you more productivity. This shit is bananas.
That he also added a hefty new tariff on Brazil, something else that we had seen threatened, hadn't been formalized yet. He added 40% tariffs on top of the 10% Brazil tariffs that were already in place. He says he's declaring an economic emergency in order to do this, and that will take effect. Again, not a huge trading partner for the U.S., but there are some goods likely to see some big impact there.
Yeah,
things
we're
like
about
orange
to
juice,
get
coffee,
coffee
some
spikes.
metals as well. So much more to come as we comb through all of these. But
And they didn't talk about how those tariffs on Brazil are directly contributed to the fact that Brazil is holding their former dictator accountable for trying to be a dictator. Fucking insane. Grab the vomit buckets. Blue Overlord is speaking at the National Bar Association. Of course he is.
The U.S. Federal Reserve
We're getting fucked harder and harder every day. And now we can't even afford the lube.
Enormous pressure coming from the White House. They cited uncertainty over the country's economic outlook and inflation numbers as the main reason behind that decision. Donald Trump has threatened to fire the head of the central bank, Jerome Powell. Just before the announcement was made, Trump again criticized Powell.
We should be the lowest interest rate, and we're not. We're 38. Number 38 because of the Fed. It's all because of the Fed. He's
You know what?
Done a bad job. No, he's got
The
a meeting.
last president that went after the Fed ended up getting assassinated. Directly related? Who knows? But I'm really curious if he remembers that.
Today, but I call him too late. You know, he's always too late. Even if he does it today, probably won't. I hear they're going to do it in September, not today. For what reason? Nobody knows. But Europe, as you know,
wasn't going to move interest rates this time round, and it turned out to be absolutely right. What the Fed is saying in its statement is that there were swings in net exports, which is affecting the data. That's effectively Donald Trump's tariff policies, big imports at the start of the year, not so much over the last 3 months, because they're worried that they won't get them in without paying an additional fee. And also the growth of economic activity has moderated, particularly with certain indicators as well. So effectively, Jerome Powell wants to play things safe. Donald Trump believes that high interest rates are a handbrake on the economy, that people aren't investing in businesses because they can't get loans at a low rate, they're not buying houses, and all of that is slowing down what he believes is a booming economy.
Now, don't get me wrong. Trump is, I hate to say it, correct. High interest rates do prevent spending and borrowing and lending. They do. That is an unequivocal fact. What's the number one reason why people aren't buying a house right now, other than the inflated housing crisis, the cost of housing, is because of the interest rates. Who wants to be locked into a 7% APR with an 800 credit score? I sure as hell don't. But the difference was I also didn't want to live in an apartment. So I fucked myself in the long term so that in the short term, I don't want to blow my brains out. At the same time, it's impacting all interest rates, whether that's credit cards, whether that's auto loans, whether that's getting buy now, pay later furniture. And he's also correct with the business loans. If you can't borrow money in capitalism, you can't invest. You cannot grow. You cannot build. That's the problem. We are so reliant upon capital that if you can't access capital, everything starts crumbling. And he is factually correct by saying that high interest rates is a mitigation factor. Now, do I believe that he understands the all of the implications? No. Do I believe that he's doing it for the altruism of benefiting the American people? Also no. What I believe is happening here is he wants lower interest rates for his own personal business ventures while he's profiting over the presidency, and also wants to help enrich his buddies who keep buying his coin and enriching him that way. I believe this is so capitalists can gain more capital cheaply. I think that's what this is all about. That being said, it isn't incorrect either, what he's saying. We're going to have to be Walter White and make our own lubes. Yeah, something like that. Tariffs are not a neoliberal policy. I doubt he is the next Reagan. No, he's worse than Reagan. Jerome Powell and Trump hate each other. They do. But Jerome Powell also deserves the hatred that he is getting, because he shouldn't be keeping these interest rates this high. You know, if you squint your eyes just a little bit, him in the construction hat looks like the Dark Overlord when he visited a nuclear power plant to recharge his low energy, from Howard the Duck. Oh, see, that's a bit before my time. You and Anna might know more about that than I do.
Think back to all the turbulent events that have happened in politics in the last few months.
Yeah,
we've had
first of all,
on again and off again.
We've been talking about
this big Republican
video.
tax bill that narrowly squeaked through Congress. We've seen an aggressive program of deportations from the Trump administration, and the Jeffrey Epstein matter has resurfaced in the news. Now, look at our new Wall Street Journal poll. That big Republican tax bill, more people disapprove of it than support it. They think overall that it's going to help the wealthy, help large corporations, and raise the deficit.
Okay, that's not news. That's your opinion. That's fine. Well, it's the Wall Street Journal's opinion, but that's owned by Bezos. So, yeah. Oh, here we go.
At
Gerrymandering.
Advent, we help sleep apnea sufferers avoid this.
That's something we definitely need to talk about.
By getting your nose in.
9, 29, 18, and 7 are blue dots surrounded by red. So once you start messing with these districts and start putting some of the red in, that is why they believe they could change the District 9 seat and turn that seat red. And that would be the 5 seat. So obviously this proposed map getting a lot of feedback, a lot of Democrats unhappy about it. And joining us now to talk more about this is Congressman Greg Casar from Austin. As you heard us mention,
who owns the Wall Street Journal?
Your district is essentially wiped out. You would be drawn out of this map for the current district that you have right now. Talk to us about your reaction to this.
Well, what this map would do is essentially merge my district with Congressman Lloyd Doggett's district, and that is deeply illegal. I represent East Austin and Eastern Travis County, and they merged that in with Congressman Doggett's West Austin and Western Travis County district. That is all an attempt to have Donald Trump select members of Congress all across Texas instead of the voters getting to select members of Congress. And look, Ashley, you just showed these maps. They're already so gerrymandered. It's already ridiculous how gerrymandered these maps are. And now Donald Trump is ordering for that gerrymandering to be put on steroids because he wants to cover up for his corruption and crimes. He knows he can't do that by winning an election, so he's trying to rig an already extremely gerrymandered map.
And that's kind of the point, right? Republicans don't win elections because people actually support them. Largely, Republicans win elections because they have rigged the elections in their favor, whether that is through gerrymandering, whether that is through voter disenfranchisement by, scrubbing the voter rolls, whether it is relying on low voter turnout on off election years. Either way, conservatives win elections not through the merits of their policies or their values, consistently. And the greater the voter turnout, the greater the likelihood that a liberal or Democrat ends up winning. So if you then take away that particular possibility, it's like, okay, fine, turn out all you want, but these districts are now going to be predominantly conservative, then even with a high vote turnout, it still ends up in favor of the conservative. And that's the fucking problem. We don't have a democracy in this country. We have a whole shit ton of corruption masquerading as democracy, twirling mustaches and monocles. And the Dems are still unpopular despite all of the horrible, unpopular shit that Trump is doing. Very true. It's always the unpopular ones that win, which is why we have a pendulum in power change. And why we need an electoral reform that actually benefits the people, not the people in power. Please give good internet to the Netherlands if I become president. I was offline since my last message. I had to reconnect to nature and stuff. You know what's nuts? I don't have fiber optic internet anymore. And I have not been able to upload these videos to YouTube after we're done, because it takes more than 2 hours to upload a 3-hour video to YouTube. So yeah, after we get fiber optic internet everywhere in this country, I will gladly partner with the Netherlands to help them out too. Are the Democrats at 19%? Is that what they're at? That's nuts.
You know, have you had a chance to talk with Congressman Doggett about this proposal and about, you know, what you guys are thinking, what you're seeing with this map?
Congressman Doggett and I are united in fighting back against this illegal and radically racially gerrymandered map. Look, this map clearly violates the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Martin Luther King and the Civil Rights Movement marched to get LBJ to sign the Voting Rights Act, and he handed the pen. LBJ handed that pen to MLK. Donald Trump is trying to shred the Voting Rights Act. And as you showed in Houston, they are trying to get rid of the few districts where African American and Latino Texans have a majority of the vote. Similarly, here in Central Texas and in the Austin area, Donald Trump is ordering that they get rid of some of these districts where there's significant Latino and Black voting power, and he's trying to merge us into just one district in the heart of Austin. And so we're going to fight it with everything we've got.
Yeah, you know, I want you to talk about that fight for a little bit. We know that Democrats here in the state...
Sorry, I need to do more interaction here. Yeah, that's fucking racially... I mean, and here's the thing. Every major city in America is blue. That's just the nature of the beast. It is blue. Liberals congregate in cities. They end up developing liberal values because they have interacted with somebody outside of their own culture and race. Hence why liberalism, the classical liberalism, is so predominant in cities and high population centers. Notice how if there are districts at all in those population centers, they are only ever carved out so that there's only like maybe one or two that are, okay, fine, you get to keep your liberalism, and the rest are carved out so that they're in like all of the rural areas. And that's gerrymandering. And with zero attempt at hiding it. Ohio's doing a really bad job of it too. And the point here is it is often racially biased. And it's even worse because the liberals are holier than thou. It's like, oh, we would never do this when we were in power. And they don't. They don't gerrymander when they're in their power, which is kind of interesting, believe it or not. But conservatives, they don't give a shit because all they care about is accumulating more power. So they will do everything in their power to get more power. So they will brazenly gerrymander. And until it gets to a point where even judges are like, listen, we're conservative judges in Alabama, but even we have to say, like, dude, this is fucked up. It usually only stops at that point. However, right up until that threshold is reached, they're stealing elections through, again, racial boundary drawing. And that's insane. That's like, and most people actually lean centrist, not conservative or liberal one way or the other. Most people just, if push comes to shove, will be socially liberal and fiscally conservative, which puts you in the central area, right? But with neoliberalism and economics, that still appeals to people because most people are like, well, fine, I'll pay for roads and education and healthcare because, well, I am part of a country and I think we deserve that. Yes, cigar. And gerrymandering just undermines that completely. And every state has a degree of gerrymandering that continues to get further and further out of hand. What is hanging on that wall? Oh, in the video. I was like, what? Yeah, that's some weird art thing. I don't fucking know either. I live in the Bronx in New York City. At least we get modern tech. Yeah. Well, Columbus, Ohio is allegedly a city that is almost universally fiber, except for the hood, which is apparently where I live now. Lied to him that they want his policies and then surprise him by voting against him. Yeah, I suppose, but that's not how that works, unfortunately. Gerrymandering gives Dems an excuse to lose? Yeah, I suppose so. A la Che Guevara. I'm trying hard to not actually take it out of the wrapper because I will absorb the nicotine and then I'll have a hard time falling asleep. Yes. Taino representation. Let's go. All right. So I think we covered that. All right. I don't think I heard anything about this. Oh, awful.
I was really proud to join every single one of my Democratic colleagues on the Homeland Committee in invoking a century-old and little-known law known as the Rule of Five to compel the Department of Justice to release the full and complete Epstein files. Under federal law, when any 5 senators on the Homeland Security Committee call on the executive branch must comply. Our request covers all documents, files, evidence, and other materials in possession of the DOJ, the FBI, related to the case of the United States versus Jeffrey Epstein. While protecting the public has a right to know who enabled, knew of, or participated in one of the most heinous sex trafficking operations in history.
All right, I'm falling asleep to this. So, evidently, if 5 committee members on the Homeland Security Committee agree on something, they can force the hand of the Department of Justice to release information. Why the fuck haven't you done this sooner? If there are laws like this where committee members, which makes very little sense, but whatever. If there are committee members that can force the hand of the administration to do something, why the fuck are y'all not doing it on every single policy that this administration has forced down our throats to undermine our fucking Constitution? People are like, wow, Sam, you've been crashing out a lot. It's hard not to. What I mean is, since he wants to punish districts that are of a demographic he hates, they should lie to him in order to save their district. Yeah, let's lie on the census. We're all white in America. We won! I appreciate you being on my side, homie. The Epstein files would have been a simple matter if it had only involved Americans and not touched on officials and figures from other countries. It would have only inflamed geopolitical tensions. But see, therein lies the quandary, right? The only reason why the Epstein files are a controversy is because people with power and authority are in them. And the people with the power and the authority to release the Epstein files are in them. That's what makes it a controversy. When I become president, it's no longer a controversy. I'm not in them. I know for a fact I'm not in them. You can polygraph me. There is no chance in hell I'm on them. None. And I have nothing to lose by releasing it. I have only everything to gain. And if we lose world leaders and global conglomerates and whatever else because their names are on there and they are dead to rights, pedophiles, good. Get rid of them. Moving on. But that's the fucking difference. Stephen Miller. Yes, we're going to cover that in a second. Just say that like him and... Well, I don't... Yeah, but see, here's the thing, pop culture. Like, people would have to still have the level of organization and wherewithal to do that, and we don't. Let's make the island a prison for the people that did bad. F students are inventors? I don't know what you mean by that, F students. But suffice to say, feckless, cowardly Democrats who could have been using this power long ago. Where was the Stephen Miller thing? So these are shorter videos. Then there's this longer video. You know what? We like the Majority Report, don't we? They're all right, right?
This is footage of Stephen Miller from 2003. I don't know how old he is. It seems like it's on a high school
17.
bus or a college bus. Okay. Yeah.
I've been reading, the reason I put this in there is because I've been kind of skimming through Jean Guerrero's book, Hate Monger, Stephen Miller, Donald Trump, and the White Nationalist Agenda. You had her on like right before I joined the show.
Oh, was it that long ago? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just
damn,
like
way to call her old,
about
you
his
jerk.
background and how he was such a virulent racist, specifically about Latinos growing up in a high school that had a lot of Latino classmates in Southern California. And
wow. Imagine that. Latinos in Southern California. Shocked Pikachu face.
there's just like you see the origins of that hatred even then. So that's why this clip kind of just stuck out to me here.
Also, I think the thing to pay attention to is the reception he's getting, because I think this is the story of Stephen Miller. This is
Buddy, can we get to the fucking...
to kill as few people as possible, but as for Saddam Hussein and his henchmen, I think the ideal solution would be to cut off their fingers. I don't think it's necessary to kill them entirely. We're not a barbaric people. We respect life. Therefore, torture is the way to go. Because torture...
You mean torture, which is banned by the Geneva Conventions that we strongly adhered to at that time, 2003, and that is actually definitively described as a war crime? That torture?
People can live. Torture is a celebration of life and human dignity.
Bruh. This man should be in prison. Again, remember how we discovered the definition of sociopath? Quote me on this, tag him, clip this in video. Stephen Miller, you are a sociopath and have advocated for war crimes in your youth and in your present. You deserve to be charged, tried, indicted, sentenced, and put to death for your actions, both prior to and in the service of this administration. You are a dangerous, dangerous human being, and you are a diametric threat to the peace, prosperity, and ongoing sovereignty of the United States of America. And as president, I will ensure to the fullest extent of my power and ability that you are brought to heel. Wow. That's insane. Like, hey, we should torture people because it's better than murdering them and we're celebrating their lives. That is Nazi Sprach. Hey, we didn't kill the Jews, we just cut off their hands so that they couldn't steal. What? That's the thing. White supremacy and xenophobia and hate like that doesn't make sense. There is no logic. It's just justification for the thoughts. Fucking wild. Yeah, and that piece of shit is who is mandating the 7,000 deportations in America. Yeah, that's disturbing as fuck. Well, we've already gotten angry about Palestine once today. Yeah, I don't think I'm ready. No, I don't think I can handle that. Not today.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. Among the millions who will be impacted by Medicaid cuts. Democracy Now!, Maria, thanks so much for joining us. Talk about the significance of this moment.
I definitely am. I'm trying to keep my mental health in check,
played out. What is the Yale study? They said something like they expect 51,000 people a year to die as a result of the cuts to health insurance overall.
Yes. As this reconciliation fight was happening, disabled people, working class people kept saying that people will die as a result of these cuts. But for us, that wasn't based on a statistical model. That was based on lived experience of having to watch our friends and family members and loved ones die because we could not get the care that we needed to survive, much less thrive. Prior to Medicaid and really prior to the Americans with Disabilities Act, disabled people were often either forced to live in institutions or forced to stay home behind closed doors because there was no system for us to get our needs met in the community. And Medicaid, combined with the Americans with Disabilities Act, really created the foundation for which disabled people could achieve community integration.
So we're not going to watch the whole 9 minutes. Plus, I'm out of water, and I definitely need to get more water. So we'll touch base on this, though. Basically, until the American Disabilities Act was passed, which was 1990. Wow, I didn't realize it was that late. But to the point of Medicare and Medicaid, until the ADA was actually passed, as the lady said, you just were fucked. You that was it. You had home care or institutions. You did not get to live a meaningful, thriving life. You just didn't. And they are rolling that back to force the undesirables, the disabled, brown people, queer people, etc., out of society, forcing them back behind closed doors, forcing them out of the spotlight, out of society in general. And that's not okay. That's just not okay. Again, one, it is a fact, it is an absolute fact that the majority of healthcare expenses are due to people who need it, right? And I'm trying to think of the word. I'm trying to give myself time to think of it. Chronic illnesses. Chronic illnesses and things like cancer, right? Those are the people who do use 94% of all medical expenses. The entire hospital apparatus, the medical apparatus and infrastructure anywhere goes predominantly to those with chronic issues, long-term conditions. That's a fact. But it is also a fact that every single human being can eventually end up in that situation. And so what we're doing is we're rolling back the resources that can allow that infrastructure to be maintained, for one, and to be kept up to date, or to even be expanded, never mind, right? So we're rolling that back, which is bad enough. But then all of the other resources and support programs that are involved so that people with disabilities can be mobile and interact within society is also being gutted. So we're basically trying to kill the disabled. Well, we aren't. This administration is. And they're going to succeed. 51,000 people are going to die because of these actions, which means 51,000 counts of involuntary manslaughter should be put on the heads of everyone in this administration involved in this decision-making process, and every member of Congress, the Senate, the House, and the Supreme Court that allowed this to go through. Bar none. Maybe becoming an Amish is better than following this. No, don't give up. And they will eventually come for the Amish. A lot of Amish people are considered disabled. When you turn off the news, you're at the place the bad news is coming from. It's mental. Yeah, that's the thing. There is no turning off the news in America. Because going grocery shopping is watching the news. I get to see in real time the cost of goods, meat, noodles, go up in real time. It used to be chicken was like less than $1 a pound. Now it's $3. It used to be beef was like $6 or $7 a pound. Now it's $10 to $15. And it just continuously escalates like that. Politics is everywhere, but people are like, la, 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 it doesn't affect me. And it does. America is full of good Germans and the ignorant and the apathetic. Yeah, it is pretty frustrating. See, at least in the Netherlands, you watch this stream, you're like, thank God I'm not here. I can go to the hospital right now if I want and get checked for lung cancer, and it won't cost me a fucking dime. And then I can go to the grocery store and buy normal priced food. Right. Everything is going up. Everything. Even like, okay, good example. I bought solar panels in 2021, and at the time they were priced for electricity being 15 cents per kilowatt hour. This year I got quoted for solar panels again, and that was 4 years later, and electricity has gone up from 15 to 24 cents per kilowatt hour. That's over a 50% increase for electricity alone. So if utilities are going up by at least 50%, the cost of housing has gone up 200%, and the cost of goods has doubled from last year. Yeah, that's politics. That is politics in real time. Why didn't FDR create universal health care? He created many social programs. He was going to, but he died before he got around to it. But also, there was so much pushback in his later administration that it would have been all but impossible to implement because of the corporate and capitalist influences in America. They cut an ad where Triple H was at the White House, and it's, "Are you ready to make America fit again?" Ugh. Well, we lost another wrestler, Triple H. Not that I think he was ever an ally, but I hope that backfires on him immensely. I can take this garbage in small bites and walk out of it when I want. Of course, everything also indirectly affects the Netherlands, but not nearly as significantly. True, right? The genocide is still going on in Palestine, whether we're talking about this or not. But your country is at least maybe doing something about it. My country is funding it. So at the end of the day, I go to bed with some part of me knowing my country, my tax dollars that got taken out of my check every 2 weeks is going towards that. He's there because his mother-in-law sold her soul to work for the... Oh. Yeah, well, we already knew she was bad news, but I didn't realize he was related to her. Not that that's justification. He could have still refused. All right. I know it's late into the stream, but I still do need the water. So we're going to do a quick break. Do what you got to do. I should be back in a couple minutes.
Whether you're relaxing at home or out and about, make your music move with you. With Premium, you can download your music at higher quality, listen to songs ad-free, and play them in any order. Tap the banner to learn more.
Sometimes creating an ad campaign can feel like you're talking on mute. But advertising on Spotify is different. We'll help your business turn up the volume and reach an engaged audience that's ready to hear and see your message. Learn how Spotify can add more to your mix at ads.spotify.com.
vibing there. All right, so we're back. Ruben, I read that legislator in America used to be cruel to rich people. That's why they made anti-monopoly regulations. Ha! No, that's not what happened at all. What happened was that monopolies started challenging the power of the federal government, and the federal government was like, not here, motherfucker, and then created antitrust laws. But then, fast forward to the Reagan administration, and the dismantling of pretty much the beginning of the end of all of those, corporations began to reclaim all of those powers. And now that we have an oligarch in power, they are reclaiming all of their monopoly powers with impunity and interest. So, yeah. It's because of corruption, shockingly, that the government stopped it. And now, because of corruption, it is being let loose again. All right. Oh, good. Let's get our blood boiling. No, we shouldn't do that.
Does your garage floor bother you?
Hold on. Ukraine parliament reverses bill on anti-corruption agencies amid crisis.
Your old, cracked, and stained floor, or have a bad epoxy job at
They chant for a unified and sovereign Ukraine. Hundreds gathered outside the parliament, holding signs like this one reading, "Corruption kills." President Volodymyr Zelensky is reading.
No, I see it. Corruption kill. I see that. That makes sense. The K there for corruption. Yeah, I mean, sure. What are you getting at? Playlist full of... Oh, yes. I thought you were talking about the music.
Corruption kills. President Volodymyr Zelensky's attempt to rein in the independence of Ukraine's main two anti-corruption organizations has been described as his most serious and potentially most consequential political crisis since Russia's full-scale invasion began more than 3.5 years ago.
I am convinced the anti-corruption institutions must be independent. That's why I'm here, to support the youth in their protests. Because I fought so we citizens could protect the interests of our future.
Say that again.
Because I fought so we citizens could protect the interests of our future.
And that, if you're a veteran, and that's not how you feel about your service, then you are a bootlicking piece of shit scum. And if you ever hear somebody say, I am a veteran, and I believe that XYZ is justified, they are a bootlicking piece of shit scum. Every veteran worth their salt is, I served and fought for my country so that bad shit wouldn't happen here at home. Period. Dot. End of story. So I just PSA, I guess. I don't know.
On July the 22nd, Zelensky and his cabinet hastily pushed a draft law through Parliament that gave the Prosecutor General, appointed by the President, greater oversight and control of Ukraine's corruption watchdogs. The move caused the largest street protests in more than a decade. President Zelensky's attempts...
Yeah, because literally he just said, I get that we need these anti-corruption committees, and that they probably should be independent, but this is a time of crisis, so we should have oversight over that. Like, are you fucking kidding me? How is that any different than just saying, we're going to do whatever the fuck we want to do, whether you fucking like it or not, and then we're going to gaslight you into believing that what we're doing isn't corrupt? What's my favorite food? I mean, that's not wrong. I also like steak. I like schnitzel. I like Schweinebraten, lasagna, chicken parmesan. If I had to narrow it down to like which food would I just love to eat forever and ever and ever, it would probably be chicken parmesan. So, chicken parmesan, final answer.
To weaken the independence of Ukraine's two major anti-corruption investigative bodies has shocked the country. But it's not just anger on the streets that has forced him to change his mind. Many Western backers in the EU and senators from both parties in the US were appalled. They demanded Zelensky backtrack. Eventual EU membership could be complicated further or even jeopardized. Perhaps vital wartime and reconstruction funds would be frozen.
My biggest concern was that, first of all, there is a problem whether or not our Western backers, our allies, will continue to support us, especially the European Union, because for them, independence of anti-corruption bodies is a red line.
Speculation is rife as to why Zelensky wanted to change the law in the first place.
Because he wants to be a dictator, motherfucker. This is the thing. Like, okay. I know you're probably... Okay, so if you're watching me right now, you see me huffing cigar, right? While this is playing and while I'm like stimming over here, right? But I'm listening. I am definitely paying attention. I find it sometimes easier to understand what's happening if I'm doing something else, if one of my senses are being distracted. But that being said, the only reason why anybody would try and make a move like that is because they want to consolidate their power and their authority and are trying to take advantage. And the fact that the EU took more immediate action against Ukraine, the Zelensky specifically, for trying to become a despot, than they have taken any action whatsoever against Israel, who has been engaging in genocide for, I mean, specifically 2 years, but arguably since Nakba for 80 years now. So, like, Europe was on it, on top of Zelensky, like, flies on shit for that, but they're barely even dipping their toe in the waters against Israel. Right, what Anna said.
Members of his inner circle are being investigated for corruption. That's why, according to opposition MPs and some members of Zelensky's party, the homes of dozens of members of the corruption watchdogs were raided and at least 2 people detained.
The corruption watchdogs? The people who were doing the oversight of the corruption, they were arrested and detained, their homes raided by Zelensky. America is doing some fashy shit right now, but they haven't quite gone that far yet. Granted, do they even have to go that far to raid the opposition party when they are lockstep in voting for it in the first place? But holy shit. He was definitely going to lose the election. He was polling extremely low before the Russian invasion. Yeah. And Trump is polling ridiculously low right now. And the Democrats are still not going to try and impeach this fucker, even though we've discovered there are new and more imaginative ways to push things down the pike. That's insane.
Damage. Trust is really harmed. Trust of Ukrainian people in Ukrainian government.
Well, that's propaganda.
I think it's a horrific mistake. I think, unfortunately, that he tried to protect his friends and his cronies. That's a big problem.
President Zelensky had initially said the anti-corruption agencies were vulnerable to Russian influence. Despite his U-turn and Parliament voting overwhelmingly in favour of reinstating the law protecting their independence, this crisis has exposed just how fragile Ukraine's path towards meaningful reform actually is.
That's
Meanwhile,
because
Russian drone
power never wants to relinquish power, certainly not peacefully. Every country's tenuousness relation with peace and power is always threadbare. Look at Germany. Look at Germany. It went from we're going to just do our best to never get involved in the military again to wir werden die stärkste Armee in Europa, des ganzen Landes, in die ganze Welt, für alle Zukunft und die alle Zeiten bauen. Und gegen die Russen wir kämpfen. Germany went from Tehe Volkswagen and Oktoberfest to we will create the greatest army Europe has ever seen. Like, no. Democracy is always under threat. Every single moment of every single day, democracy is under threat. Every single day in every single country where a democracy exists, it is under threat. And even Saudi Arabia, which is a monarchy, is under threat to becoming a dictatorship every single moment of every single day. The only countries that aren't under threat of becoming consolidated dictatorships are ones that are already consolidated dictatorships, like North Korea. I don't really know of any others off the top of my head. We can claim that there are others out there for sure, but without like the propaganda spin, I think the only true dictatorship is North Korea. Maybe El Salvador, but still. He was on the Pandora Papers. Wow. That's insane. Damn it. That's like long ago, yet also fairly recently as far as those things go. So like that was 4 years ago, which seems like an extremely long amount of time, but it also wasn't. If Germany does that, so cooked. Germany is. That's not a question of if it's going to happen. It's a question of how long it is going to take for it to be finished. It has already begun. What about Hungary? Viktor Orban has been president for like 8 years. Yeah, we're not talking about people who are consolidating power. We're talking about truly established and entrenched dictators. And I don't think outside of North Korea there are any. Not presently. And again, not to my knowledge. But global affairs is also not my strong point. Sorry, I brought the honey down here because it really does help soothe the throat, but it's also it's just going to take time for me to get used to talking that much. Well, to be fair, political, Germany almost did take a century off. It was very close. Another 20 years, and it would have been a full century. 3/4 is the best we can do, I guess, before World War III mandates the necessity. No, it's not frozen. It's not caramelized. It's I don't know what it's called when it does this. Dry? Well, it is mostly solid. Like the longer you keep wow. Let's just see what Google calls it. Crystallizing. That's all it is. It's crystallization, which is awesome because I love Final Fantasy and it's all about crystals, baby. So honey is as Final Fantasy of a meal or food item as it gets. Well, I only saw that after I Googled it. So, all right, let's try rational and national. Let's see what this one's going to be about. The rational national.
Some of the aid that's been used to massacre children and innocents.
Oh, Slotkin.
You have backed Israel.
Isn't Slotkin trying to become the Democratic Party darling? And the problem is she's just a neoliberal, like Hillary levels of neoliberal. Isn't she like a really disingenuous person? Okay, that's
as far as I can tell, from your voting record at almost every turn.
Rarely am I ever so blown away by an interview that I have to do a video on the interview, but here we are. This was a fantastic interview from Breaking Points, particularly Crystal Ball, where they interviewed Alyssa Slotkin, the Democratic senator who is a mainstream Democrat In other words, she is on the right. In any other political context, any other country, she'd be in a right-wing party. But in the U.S., she's in the Democratic Party.
Well, that's because the Democratic Party is also a right-wing party. So, and Crystal Ball used to be what? A part of the Young Turks? Is that person?
And she was grilled in a way that I don't think she expected, because this is not the kind of interview lawmakers normally have when they're on most places. So I'm going to get to a few clips here. And of course, I will into the full interview.
Buddy, can you get to the fucking interview?
Propose, and I do. But that message coming out of that election.
What do you disagree with?
Just, my family was a fourth generation hot dog business. Like, I am here because we live the American dream through capitalism.
So you being born into wealth and Italy.
We don't have, I'm curious why you wanted to talk to us.
What do you mean?
Well, like we don't have actually a lot of senators, especially ones who have very different ideology than us, reach out. So I'm curious what your goal was.
Anna, you have a mission. I know we're not like a senator. Reach out to Breaking Points. Maybe they can get us on there.
And why you thought to come here?
Well, first of all, I think you have a good audience. I mean, right?
We agree.
If you appealed to like 4 friends on YouTube or whatever, then I probably wouldn't be here. I think your show appealed to me as I was being pitched because you guys don't agree. And like, I am very focused. My dad was a lifelong Republican. My mom a lifelong Democrat. Like, Michiganders want to get back to a place where we can disagree on politics and not have it be so, like...
Yeah, well, okay, I want to disagree about politics too. But here's the thing. We can disagree about tax dollars should be spent on bridges versus schools versus hospitals versus modernizing our fiber optic internet or electrical or our plumbing or whatever else. We can argue how our tax dollars are spent. We can debate that until the cows come home. We can debate whether or not we should invest in clean energy infrastructure or utilize non-renewables. We can even debate on whether or not we should build trains in America again. We can have that debate all day long. We can debate on the military budget. We can debate about the Medicare budget. We can debate on the education budget. We can even debate on the merits of universal programs, right? We can have those debates. But the reason why politics has become so is because now it's apparently socially acceptable to debate the merits of whether or not people deserve to exist. And if they should have rights. Or if rights even fucking matter. Or if the state is the only thing that matters. Or if the administration is the only thing that matters. Or should the administration have the authority to arbitrarily govern by itself without using checks or balances. The reason why politics is so is because we're debating fascism versus an actual representative democracy. And now extreme left-leaning people, granted, I'm not necessarily suggesting communists because they're always going to be considered far left. But people who are actually arguing for representative democracy and communal government and engagement are being lumped in with the communists, and they don't like that. And everybody else is like, well, let's kill brown people. What's wrong with killing brown people? They're brown. They're practically dead anyway. Look at them. And that's why politics is so because we've given those pieces of shit a fucking platform. Her parents obviously have a sense of humor. They're also on my list. Thank you. That's good to know. Things are so clear, we need to fix the obvious cooked stuff. Exactly. The fascist Jubilee guy. Who's Jubilee? I guess that's another streamer that I don't know of.
Bitter.
All right, so I want to give a...
Fuck off!
I don't really...
Oh, wait. I'm sorry. Here I am getting angry at him, and we're watching his video. My bad. You should have... one minor criticism, Anna. You should have just just found this interview.
That's all I have. Yeah. But you're a United States Senator. Like you're not the president, but you have power. So what are you going to do? Because so far what we've seen, I mean, you voted for some of the aid that's been used to massacre children and innocents. You know, you have backed Israel as far.
Well, making me look like a jackass, why don't you? Oh. But it's 30 minutes long. Okay, so these are like the highlights. Okay.
As far as I can tell, you know, from your voting record at almost every turn, you voted for a definition of anti-Semitism that would, you know, codify anti-Zionism as anti-Semitism. You voted as a member of the House to sanction the ICC for indicting Benjamin Netanyahu, who you just admitted is a war criminal, you know, by your own words. So are you going to join Senator Angus King, Senator Bernie Sanders in saying no more aid to this country that is committing war crimes against innocent civilians?
I think the first thing, if you're asking about what to do with power, and I would offer that right now Democrats own nothing in Washington. So don't play.
What a fucking, oh wait. I paused it right when she was about to say the same thing. So, mea culpa.
That right now Democrats own nothing in Washington. So
don't play powerless with me. You're a United States Senator. There are things you can do. Don't play powerless with me. You're a United States Senator. There are things you can do.
And on repeat, motherfucker, do not sit here and lie. First of all, why? This isn't your ally. This isn't NBC, MSNBC, or NBC for that matter. This is not the paid programming for Democrats. This isn't your, oh, thank you, Senator Slotkin, you're a Democrat. We love Democrats here. Oh my goodness, you're so pretty. I love your suit. Very boss girl. Go get it. This is arguably a left-leaning independent news network, right? Breaking Points. They're not going to play these fucking games, and your staff should have told you, like, don't pull any of that neoliberal bullshit, because they will call you out on it. At a bare minimum. Also, I've been calling them out since 2017. Oh, we don't control anything. We don't have any power. Neither did the Republicans, and they fucking stonewalled the sitting president of the United States on, 2 Supreme Court justice nominations? Even though he had 8 months left in power? And then steamrolled those same nominations the second Trump got voted in. Meanwhile, the Democrats during the first Trump administration did nothing whatsoever to slow that down. The Republicans did not have a majority. They were still a minority when that happened. They also didn't have did they have a majority? I think they did have a majority when Trump got into office the first time. But the fact remains, they were a minority when they stonewalled Obama on his Supreme Court nomination. So don't fucking tell me that Democrats, who are in a minority by single digits, can't do something about it. Fuck off.
In terms of who runs our foreign policy, I just think it's interesting, right, that there was a ton of protests when Democrats were in charge.
There was a protest in Manhattan yesterday.
Okay. I think it's fair to say, just to be honest, that back and forth, like the number of protests that go on now versus before.
Well, they were part of your political coalition.
Well, not to
right?
mention, I mean, Senator Slotkin,
that's fair.
Obviously, I'm here.
Yeah.
I was very upset over the Biden administration policy. And as you can tell, I'm very upset over the Trump administration policy. Yeah. So let's deal not in strawman, but me and here and now.
In terms of what, so.
All right, so I'll get to the rest of that answer.
Pressurized campaign to get aid into people who are starving. That to me is the number one, because that's the one is urgent and today. And that.
But will you cut off aid to Israel so long as they're committing crimes against humanity?
There is a difference between a weapon to protect a country from incoming missiles versus.
Hamas doesn't have missiles. They barely have rifles. I looked at my belt, but this is what Hamas is fighting Israel with. Literally. This is the people you're giving guns to Israel for to fight against. Fuck off. Harris working tirelessly for a ceasefire, except that was a lie. It was revealed that that was a lie. The Biden administration did not at any point in time actually fight for a ceasefire during the entire administration. The Dems claim that they don't have power when they're in power because the GOP blocks them. And then they're out of power. They can't block the GOP either. So they're powerless and ineffective as a party, which is exactly what I said in 2017, if they don't start earning the trust and support of the people, which they have clearly not done.
Other type offensive and defensive weapons are different.
So would you support offensive weapons ban? Like, would you stop any offensive aid to Israel?
That certainly, to me,
I ordered 200
She can't even commit to that with a simple yes or no. After she spent that time, energy, and effort to delineate between the two?
Be a place to look.
Do you understand how insane it is? Now
I do, buddy. I do. But I'm not here for you.
Will not
I want your highlights.
Actually includes, I think, the next Democratic nominee for president. Things I want to see Democrats at least calling for is cutting off military assistance to Israel.
Anna, you probably did do this, but because I'm a white man and I have to mansplain everything, because I'm in a position of power and authority, if you haven't added these individuals to the list of outreach, please do so.
Rich country, by the way. They don't need our $3 billion a year. And hands up, right? Barack Obama signed a 10-year MOU for $3.3 billion a year. Like, so we're part of the problem here. Let's correct it. I would like to see talk about sanctioning Israeli government officials who use genocidal rhetoric or who talk about ethnic cleansing openly. We should support a ceasefire resolution at the UN. We should demand that international press be allowed into the Gaza Strip to report on what's happening without an IDF minder. It's insane. The press still can't go into Gaza and cover what's happening. And I also think, like, there has to be a total mindset change in the Democratic Party. When the war ends...
Yes! There does, because I said this 8 years ago. This dude, why do people forgot that I said this already?
Not going back to the pre-October 7th status quo, because it's not where the party is. It's not where the world is. We're not going to shovel billions a year in military aid. We're not going to veto every effort to recognize a Palestinian state at the UN. We should not take money from AIPAC. And like, I will hold out hope for better political leadership in the US and in Israel. But we have to also recognize that the Biden era hug Bibi Netanyahu strategy has to be thrown in the trash can for fucking ever. Netanyahu is a bad actor. He's continuing a war for political purposes.
Yes.
He bombs Lebanon when he wants to. He bombs Iran when he wants to. He bombs Syria when he wants to. This is not a partner we can count on. This is not someone who is like leading to calm and stability in the region, which should be a core interest. Like at this point, cutting off military funding for a government that is starving 2 million people and advertising.
Just to be clear, just to be perfectly clear, in case there is any like question or doubt where I stand on this issue, or if I'm just grandstanding, I have legitimately created a specific policy to cover Israel right there. And it is unequivocally immediate dissolution of diplomatic relations with and the immediate designation of Israel as a terrorist state illegally occupying the historical lands of Palestine. That is the first sentence of the first line of the first section of my policy on Israeli relations. The second line: immediate cessation and expulsion of all Israeli nationals in positions of government or industrial authority, including embassies. Immediate demand for the Israeli government to surrender to the United Nations International Criminal Courts for prosecution of their myriad, well-documented and publicly endorsed war crimes and crimes against humanity perpetrated against the Palestinian people. I could add, and everyone else in the region. The issuance of an ultimatum to the Israeli government to comply within 48 hours of this declaration or be invaded by the full might and fury of the United States military. Immediate arrest of all Israeli nationals in positions of power within the United States government or industries, seizure of their assets, revocation of their dual citizenship if applicable, and seizure of their passports. All pro-Zionist elected, appointed industrial leader or lobbyists shall be similarly arrested and charged with aiding and abetting acts of terrorism and genocide, with their assets seized, passports confiscated, and shall be similarly brought before the ICC. That is my Israeli policy as President of the United States. So, like, I'm not going to run as a Democrat, more than likely, because they'll just undermine me anyway and rig the elections against me. But I'm not mincing any fucking words whatsoever about this. Favreau was Obama's speechwriter. Sam Ronan doesn't need a speechwriter. True, I don't. But if I get used to reading on a teleprompter, I think it would be. I think there are appropriate times to read a pre-written speech and to orate the speech. I think there are times where that is necessary, and I think those times are like the inauguration or State of the Union, right? Things of that nature, or like if I'm rolling out a new policy with specific agenda points. I might forget one. Even if it's important, even if it's one that I care about deeply, I might forget. So I think having a speechwriter in that context is very important. I could, but I'm not going to as president. That's why we have John Favreau. Now, granted, I might need to write speeches so that John Favreau knows how I speak, to be fair. But, yeah, I'm going to be way too busy as president to write speeches. Come on. Come on. Oh, we're almost wrapping up. Okay. Well, you know what? Let's keep going. Well, that's the rub. ChatGPT is a computer, and I'm autistic. Guess what sounds alike?
How they're ethnically cleansing the Palestinians seems like the least we can do.
I think this is great.
And this is their Israeli human rights organization joined the global consensus, Amnesty International, some 800 scholars. There was a piece from an Israeli scholar in the New York Times in saying this is a genocide. Do you accept? Even Marjorie Taylor Greene yesterday came out and said it's a genocide. Do you accept that?
Thank you for the
I mean, what responsibility does a United States senator have? For this is a nation that we send every year billions of dollars to aid that you have voted for and supported. Like, what responsibility does a United States senator have to prevent genocide and to stop genocide that we see ongoing?
We have a responsibility up till today to ensure that food is getting in.
Is it
so
a
that
genocide?
People don't starve. I don't know that I'd use that term.
Why?
But it is violating the law of war.
Why don't you use the term though?
Because I think, it's, to me, I think it's
we're getting trolled right now.
Which is what I think of in genocide. I don't know if it meets that definition.
They're
but
announcing
didn't you say it earlier that it was?
Wow. Did we get raided by a conservative stream? What just happened here? Hey, we got our 220 followers though. Let's go. That's fucking. It's Destiny. That punk little bitch. Destiny raid. Well, actually, now I can go off, King. She can't even say it's a genocide, and she's trying to be like, well, actually, the definition of genocide is when it's against Jews. Fuck you, Salakin. I can't wait to destroy you, too. But yeah, Destiny, you're sending your trolls against me because you're too much of a bitch to accept my gauntlet that I threw at your fucking face to debate me. Granted, I don't necessarily want to debate on Kick, but if you give me a Zoom link or whatever thing so that you can stream on your channel and I can stream on my channel and we can, I'll stream on Twitch. Although I don't know, would that actually get me banned? Ugh. Well, he's not banned on YouTube. So maybe what'll happen is I'll have to record it, not put it on Twitch, and then just upload it to YouTube. But yeah, I mean, come on, Destiny, really? That's the best you got? I love MAGA, racial slur, like, come on. That's pitiful. Destiny is scared like the punk little bitch that he is. And on that note, thank you for coming to the stream. I'm trying to find different ways to stim rather than stress eat donuts and gain 10,000 pounds. I'm beginning to see it in my cheeks already. Thank you for not judging me too much on the honey. It really does help with the throat. But yes, thank you for joining us. This was Recap Thursdays with your president, Samuel Ronan. And next week, we will be kicking it right off, Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern. Join us no matter where you are. But if you're watching and if you enjoyed this content, please tell your friends. We want to grow. We want to go partner. We want to have like legitimacy and stuff and platform building so that when we go against Destiny, it'll be like, listen here, bitch. We're on your caliber of entertainer and streamer, even though we're actually running for office. So anyway, I can be relaxed. It is true. Hence why I'm sniffing the cigar to calm me. So, on that note, thank you all for joining us. See you on Tuesday, where we will start calling Tuesdays What the Fuck America Tuesdays, because we remain calm. Have a great weekend, everybody. Ronan, out.